本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。
What's good, Internet? It's Monday, March 2nd, 2020, and you are listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 296. I'm your host, Austin Walker, and I'm joined by Cado. I almost said the illustrious, but that's not our thing. I can't just do that. What's up? What do you mean, huh?
Illustrious.
Illustrious guests. Also joining us, Rob Zachney from a situation you're just going to have to learn about later in your regular life. Hi, Rob. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Better than ever, really.
Yeah, okay. When I have to sit on this, because now it's...
Now it's in the...
No, he's the one sitting on it.
Patrick Klepek joining us also from Chicago.
Hey.
How you doing? How was your weekend? You doing good?
I went to a Costco, put a finger to the air to see what the sense of panic is.
You're not supposed to do that.
People are anxious.
Don't do that. Your finger gets infected if you put a finger in the air, I'm pretty sure.
No, you just don't. You just make sure you wash it before you
do anything
touch
else,
your
right?
face.
Yeah, okay.
So was it end time stuff at Costco? Did you
Not ours. Ours was pretty normal. That said, you can't buy hand sanitizer anymore. Just sold.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just sold out. Yeah, my wife and I got sufficiently paranoid that we bought a couple of things, but I'm, trying to not be too paranoid. But I'll admit I went up like 10. I went up like 10%, enough to be like, all right, buy a jug of water and put it in the garage.
My wife and I bought a couple things. There is a loaded 9mm pistol on Patrick's kitchen table out there.
No, that's we're at concerned 35%. That's at 75%.
Yeah.
We got percentages to go before I find the right to bear arms.
God. It's going to be fine.
You buy razor wire at Costco?
Absolutely.
It's in
but
gardening.
only in bulk.
Yeah, but only in bulk. Yeah, only a ton of it at a time. God, Kirkland brand razor wire. Unbelievable. I love it. I love this. How's everybody doing generally? How are we feeling? Are we energized this Monday? Cado, you said you had big Garfield energy.
It's Monday.
It is Monday.
It's a Monday.
It's also a Monday before Super Tuesday, which means I think my nerves are shot. As well, I'm hoping everyone else out there is doing okay. I hope we're gonna get through this week. If you're in the U.S., we're gonna push through it. Everyone's gonna get a good night's sleep tonight, and then a bad night's sleep tomorrow as results start coming in.
Hey, you know who didn't get through this week? Pete Buttigieg.
That's true.
Yow!
That's true. High hopes for a living. Unfortunately, you don't really get paid much on those.
Not high enough.
Hopes,
Yeah, I guess. No, it hasn't come out yet. What he hasn't said. Okay, wait. What came out was a surrogate privately told someone on the record privately that he was dropping out because he doesn't want his presence to help a Sanders nomination happen. But he hasn't come out and said this is about not having enough money or this is about my poor showing in South Carolina or anything like that, right? I didn't miss anything.
Or about black people just completely rejecting him wholesale.
Wholesale.
I mean,
absolutely.
There's nothing more in character with what we know about Pete Buttigieg than him dropping out in an act of screwing the candidate favored by people of his generation to please the elders he's been sucking up to for his entire life. So it is absolutely on brand that Buttigieg would be like, well, I failed, but how can I make it look like I'm doing this to stick it to Bernie? So good luck. The problem is I think his base may not be around in large numbers the next time he runs for high office. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with old Pete.
Listen, what I'll say is I've definitely seen parts of his base vocal on Twitter in search of a new candidate, and given where we are at and our degrees of who we have endorsed in terms of our past vitriol for Pete. My guess is we don't have too many Pete listeners here, but I think one of the things that's interesting is you look at Pete's. I wouldn't even put 10 minutes on the clock, but here we are. You don't do it because we should keep moving. We should wait until after Super Tuesday.
We should just move on. Yeah.
But what I want to say is one of the things that's interesting is when you look at Pete's base and look at who their second choice candidates were. The answer is, and I think this kind of speaks to what his platform was, his like mode. They're all over the place, right? Like everybody gets a little bump from Pete, which I guess makes it sound like he's selling coke in the bar bathroom.
See, that guy I might have voted for.
That guy. He knows what life is like. Not advertising.
Well, who says he's not doing both?
Yeah,
right?
you're right.
Who says like he's publicly projecting like respect to the elders, but privately he's like, "Hey, meet me in the bathroom."
Yeah, we got to get through Super Tuesday. I think the fact that you basically see all of his folks kind of not one by one, but like falling off into every other possible camp, kind of points to the fact that his like unifying message wasn't policy driven, wasn't really about ideology outside of like unification ideology, and mostly was basically just saying words that were all adjectives next to each other in a row.
There was that, I think, as he was trying to brand himself as like an inspirational figure, as a like capital P politician, right?
Kirkland
like in
Obama.
the footsteps. Yeah, but I think the initial appeal was that the thing Pete offered was this notion of omnicompetence. And I think that is a really powerful thing for a lot of people at this moment. This idea that there would be a really smart, really well-credentialed, thoughtful person at the helm who would be making sure everything is cool. I think the reason Pete's kind of been roundly rejected, in addition to the fact that a lot of his resume ties into like strands of American politics that have become toxic to the left in the last 15, 20 years. I think the other aspect is that for a lot of folks, certainly this is me, I think competence was a lot more appealing to me 10 years ago, right? When I thought competence was enough. Get a smart guy, get the anti-George W. Bush in there, and we'll sort all this out. I saw what competence divorced from like ideological commitment accomplished. And that means there's never really room for a guy like Pete in my political aspirations. That just wasn't going to do it anymore.
I mean, I have a place for not for Pete specifically, but I have a place for competence, and it's cabinet members, and it's like it is being put in places locally. Do you know what I mean? Where pure competence around certain policy initiatives or around certain, where expertise can be really put to bear, where information and understanding that information and being in a role where you can like actively work, like immediately administer with that knowledge is something that works. But that is not what I need in an executive, and it's not necessarily what I need in someone who is supposed to be kickstarting a larger movement and leading a party. Anyway, this my broader point was, if you are someone who's on the fence, like I think it's probably worth having that thought with yourself, which is like, what is it about Pete that appealed to me? And if it is like a belief that moderates will win the day in the end, then good luck with Biden. But I don't think Biden has a shot at taking Trump out at all. And if that's the kind of line of thinking that you have, and you're looking at the field now, I really think maybe this is time for a come to Jesus moment for those of y'all on that borderline there, because it's like, if what you want is someone who can activate people and make people intensely passionate about something, I do think Bernie is that guy in the field at this point. So anyway, good luck to those of you left adrift from Team Pete. Good luck to all
left
of you.
Adrift.
Left adrift.
Left.
Drift left.
Adrift.
Drift
Hashtag drift left.
left.
That's my favorite Act Blues. New initiative.
Yeah. God.
Drift left.
Slowly, incrementally.
Just pure vibes over on Act Blue.
Listen, Act Blue's been getting a cut of all these Bernie donations, so I'm sure they're doing fine. How's everybody doing with video games? Can we talk about some video games? You want to talk about some motherfucking video games? Patrick, I tuned in for the very last 3 seconds of your stream. I saw a big robot blow up, and I saw some like sad dudes in an alley. What's going on in Dreams? Why is someone? Who's Alan?
So this morning, the way I do my dream streams, I mentioned on last week, was that I pick a keyword and then I go from there. And today's keyword was fart. And the point being, I'm trying to find vectors that like bring up strange things, and they often lead you to like really good stuff. Has like been the experience like 2 times in a row. And this is true of this case too. Like you start by searching for fart and you get a bunch of weird meme stuff. Although even one of the meme things was like genuinely kind of like funny and interesting. But the thing we ended on was something called Alien Invasion, which was somebody's short film. I mean, there were some folks in the chat that have done some tinkering around with Dreams and were just like unbelievably impressed with the anime. Like he's doing different voice acting and there's comedy bits, and the way it's like actually structured is kind of interesting because if you go into his profile, you realize that what I didn't realize what people could do is like link together sequences so that they could all tell a story. And so as it turns out, like the bit I was watching was like going on for like 5-10 minutes. And like, this is like a really long thing to have built to tell this story. And well, it turns out, they built it in small little chunks that then just play one after another. So you couldn't, build a film or string together a series of levels by connecting these in the background. And it's a Alien Invasion. It's a classic 2 dudes who had a new friend, and then one of them suspects he's an alien, and the other's like, nah, bro, not Alan. And then Alan's hat gets blown off, damn, he's an alien.
The alien was under the hat.
Alan.
Yeah. I mean, thanks for the spoiler. Maybe I was going to watch this later, Patrick, but it's fine.
It happens in the first 10 seconds, and then it's the consequences.
I see.
It's really just where Alan goes from there. I genuinely laughed a couple of times. It's weird. The comparison a lot of people have made as I've been streaming Dreams is this was like a little after my time, but I know it was like very formative for a lot of people, was Newgrounds, the flash hub for lots of strange, weird, amateur video games. I know a lot of people that would spend, like their lunches or their time in the library at school like screwing around on Newgrounds, Dreams has big Newgrounds
energy
vibes.
Okay.
Big Newgrounds.
It's good news.
Energy.
Flash is going away this year, so they need you need a
it is. It's the idea where it's like an accessible tool that like lots of different people can create things in and can use existing assets to do so. Dreams is absolutely playing in that space, and it's. I was chatting with someone recently in which they're like, well, but I don't want to be the person to find that, which is true. Like, I don't blame people for not wanting to be the person that like sorts through the trash to find it. I experienced Little Big Planet the same way too, which is like, I didn't enjoy playing Little Big Planet because I didn't like the physics, but I read every article that was like, someone built a calculator. And I think Dreams can function similarly, even if you don't want to be the person that goes and plays those games. That said, I do think Dreams already in its early state, I've played, I shouted out one on Friday, and I've played multiple games that are like, these are just well-made experiences. So don't have much to report beyond that, except that Dreams is weird and continues to be weird in the best way possible.
Awesome. Is that what you're streaming now for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I got bored of Mario.
Damn.
They haven't done many updates past the Zelda one, and I still enjoyed doing it, but I just needed a break.
Yeah,
Otherwise, I was
fair.
gonna stop streaming, and I like the community aspect, and so I thought Dreams made sense to be something to kind of futz around with until there's either a Mario Maker update or maybe I wind things down. But I'm actually really enjoying it so far.
Awesome.
Nice.
Cado, can I ask you something that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm doing this, but I need to know. This is a podcast of people who've fallen out of love with Destiny over the in and out of we're kind of like, it's complicated. We're kind of that's kind of a dated thing, but we're like on again, off again with Destiny is what I think it's fair to say with Patrick, Rob, and I. My understanding is people are pissed at Destiny again. again, but I don't understand this because like a month ago, everyone I know who played Destiny was like, "This is the best the game has ever been."
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, so the new season has been fine, you know.
Already laying the groundwork. How's stuff going with you and them? Oh, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. Oh,
We're
okay.
good. We're good. You know, I see them every once in a while.
Yeah.
But that's really been kind of the thing is like haven't played Destiny as much this season, mostly because it had fallen into this kind of loop that was very repetitive. There wasn't as much new stuff, or even if like there was a lot of repetition in Shadowkeep when that happened, but there was still like new story bits that would happen, even if I'm kind of doing the same activities at the end of that. This one didn't have.
I already
as
have a
much.
question.
So yeah, what's up?
Like, I mean, the loop, the repetition, that's endemic to Destiny, right? Like when you've been most into Destiny, you've also been repeating and looping a fair bit.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the is this just a matter of familiarity breeds contempt? Like at this point, you've been playing this game for a number of years, or did something about the loop change even before this most recent direction that Bungie intimated?
One thing that changed was that there's no new raid for this season. And that was usually always my thing was like I would grind up, hence doing the loops, but in order to be able to eventually do the raid.
Right.
There's no raid at the end of the tunnel here, so I was like, I don't really need to engage with this as much. Like I'll do there's one activity, the Sundial, that came out that was cool, like had really fun encounters, but was only really worth doing when they changed the boss at the end, which was like every other week or something. They added a new boss encounter, and then so I would like do it that week, do it a couple times then, and then just kind of like not engage with the rest of the loop, which had to do with a lot of like doing bounties to get rolls on guns and things like that. Because I was never really about they like focused the like hunting for specific roles on guns to be the focus, where before it was like you were hunting for new sources of power, of like your light level to go up, right?
Right.
And at this point it's like you don't really need to do that. There's nothing worth grinding that much light power for, because there's nothing up there. There's no raid to complete that requires that power, really.
Right. Well, then that I think contextualizes the specific new thing.
Yeah.
Right. Which is they announced, or Luke Smith put out in a like director's cut. Luke Smith.
Yeah.
I like that those two things are basically the same. Wait, what's the director's cut? Is the director's cut just like a vlog?
It's just it's
a text post?
It's a text post.
Okay.
It's just him posting and
It's a blog.
being lightly edited. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not like one of the like they do a weekly post every Thursday this week
That's
at
from
Bungie.
Destiny.
That is from
Bungie. That's from Bungie. But then this is just like
This
Luke
is just
Smith.
Luke Smith, straight
Right.
from the heart.
Right.
You know, here we go.
Uh-huh.
Here's what's coming for Destiny.
The Scorpion Lord himself. Is that right? Is that what? Scarab Lord. Apologies, Scarab
Yeah,
Lord.
there you go.
Got to get my deep cut references correct. Anyway, continue.
And he was kind of getting ahead of some changes that are coming soon to Destiny.
I like the two modes of PR crisis management are getting ahead of and we're listening. Those are the two ways. What is the change that people are going to be pissed about or are already
pissed about, are already yelling about on the internet? The guns in Destiny currently have this mechanic where if you find a gun that has like power 500 and you have your favorite gun that is only power 200, you could put the 500 gun and have the small gun eat it to get all that power.
Yeah, I play MOBA gay. I play gacha games.
Yeah.
I started playing Granblue Fantasy this weekend.
Oh God.
We'll talk later.
Yeah. But so essentially what this meant was that once you found a loadout that you really liked, you can keep it forever. Forever is a long time, especially in a game where the other parts of the game might be repetitive. Something about using new guns was kind of always interesting to me, so I would try to move on often.
Right, but a lot of people would be like, "Hey, I found this thing. I like the way this rifle feels."
There's definitely a part of that where, like, even as I would try new stuff out, I would end up falling back into like, oh, but this Duke Mark 44 that I have that dropped like first week that I got Destiny is still my favorite. So I'm going to use that. And now what's happening is that going forward, those guns will have a level cap. So eventually they will be phased out, essentially. And the way I kind of look at this is almost like this is a thing that makes sense to me, but I don't know how many other people play Magic the Gathering, but card games have like sets, right? And in order to keep the meta fresh, there's like a standard format that uses a certain amount of the most recent sets, and then those get phased out. And like those guns still exist. You could still use that gun in PvP where light level doesn't matter.
Right.
But for PvE content or PvP, the few modes of PvP where light level does matter, certain guns will, over like a year's worth of time, will eventually phase out from when they like originally get put into the game. And people are mad because they want to keep their favorite guns forever and never change anything. But I personally feel like I'm kind of happy that I'm going to be forced to re-engage with looking for loot.
Right,
because
in this game that is ostensibly about loot.
Yeah, and like I kind of the way I see it, like, you know, this is a game about loot, and you can make the Diablo comparison of like you're gonna pick up a sword at the beginning of Diablo, but you don't want to use that same sword. You're gonna want a better sword later. But the thing with that is that the weapons in that sort of loot game are not they don't generally change the kind of kinetic button like ability use
in the same way,
in a way that
sure.
like a Destiny gun, the way that Destiny guns feel different is their rate of fire, what their spread is like, you know, all these things that make a marked difference between guns in order for there to be variety. Otherwise, it's like, what's the point of having all these guns if they feel the same? So I understand when somebody finds something that they like that feels right to them, the impetus or the thrust behind wanting to have that continue indefinitely,
yeah,
or the want of that connection. But also, yeah, being a loot game, I'm personally like kind of happy that I'm being forced out of this comfort zone in order to be able to pick up new stuff.
Yeah, I wonder if the rest of the audience will slide that way once the stuff gets implemented. But
right.
We'll see.
But
Cut a quick question.
So
if I have like my favorite guns, all tomorrow, and then I take a year off and I come back,
yeah,
are those guns vanished into the ether and they don't exist in my inventory anymore, or are they just behind the power curve and can't be buffed up to be relevant?
The second one there, yeah, they you still have them. You don't have to get rid of them. There is the ever-growing issue of vault space, or where you even hold guns, because there isn't infinite vault space. So if you're trying to hold on to a copy of everything, you're just going to run out of space to hold everything. But yeah, like it's not that they're deleting or getting rid of these guns at all. It's just that it will become obsolete the way that old Magic cards become out. So you can still play with them if you're playing like vintage or just like casually with your friends. Yeah. But, you know, but
playing like the latest raid content, if you were using one of those weapons, you are underpowered.
Yes, absolutely. You probably wouldn't be able to, honestly, given the way that power jumps happen in Destiny. You will be hunting guns whenever the next raid drops from within that season to do that raid.
Right. Well, yeah. Good luck to Destiny players. Hopefully, as this change rolls out. When does it hit? When does it actually hit?
It was vague.
Okay.
It probably starting next season.
Okay. Which means who knows? Maybe there's more stuff in that season that will help contextualize this, or we'll see.
And like that's the thing. The new season starts in like a couple weeks, and we still don't know much about it aside from one of the top tier PvP activities is coming back.
Right.
Which normally has light levels turned on. It's like one of the only times that happens in PvP. So like these things are kind of coming at
Coming
the
as
same
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Hey, here's a question, or rather, speaking of shooters, do y'all see the new Riot game get announced at 3 a.m.?
Oh my god.
Valorant?
No.
No?
Well, they've announced a bunch of like that game already
they
been
announced-
announced as just like formalized.
They announced that there was a
for what it's
first
called.
person shooter project coming.
Yeah. And it was supposed to be like
And it leaked last week, I want to say, but they just dropped at 3 a.m. a 2.5 minute long, like, here it is. Here's a round. Here's a round of play. And it's basically CSGO with powers. I linked it in podcast chat.
Weird.
Yeah, it's a super interesting way to drop it.
Isn't CSGO with powers Rainbow Six?
You should take a look at the video.
Fantasy powers, closer to Overwatch, but with guns.
And also a buying round, a round of you still buy
Overwatch,
stuff.
but with tier 1 operators.
But with yes, exactly. that is truly the vibe. It's super interesting looking. As someone who I'll never play this game well because I'm trash at like this style of shooter. I was actually all right at
Austin, don't sell yourself short. You can stay frosty with the best of them.
No, I'm too hot. That's the problem.
It's a weird art style.
Yeah, isn't it?
It doesn't commit. Like it has strong Dust vibes, like just strong,
Yes.
straight up DE Dust, like Counter-Strike. Like it looked like if you told me, hey, Valve made a new Counter-Strike and they're going in a radically different direction, like, oh yeah, sure. I get this.
Yeah.
I can see this, like a weird mashup of Team Fortress and Counter-Strike, and they're calling it Counter-Strike 3 and just leaving old Counter-Strike alone. But
I wonder if
it doesn't. I don't. It's just strange. It's just kind of. I don't know if it's bad. It's just kind of odd because it does semi-realistic, semi-cartoonish.
Yeah, it does. It does also feel though like it might just be a first art pass too. Like things are maybe gonna be shifted because this is still early alpha or whatever, right?
I don't even know if
Maybe.
it's
But they've been working on these games for a long time.
yeah, because there's theoretically also a fighting game coming. I would hope from that team that they bought from the God, what was the name of that game? Rising Thunder.
Was that the one button one?
Yeah, or I don't think it was one button, but it was simple.
Right, or like
Maybe it
simplified.
was. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I think it's just like. Also, it was not the only drop at 3 a.m. last night. And obviously,
me?
3 a.m. Eastern time is very specific. Like, it's a very particular worldview to be like, that's the time that's a strange time for me. It's a globe. The world is a
Midnight
globe.
West.
But midnight, yeah, I guess midnight West Coast. Did you see the Final Fantasy VII remake demo also dropped?
Yeah.
At 3 a.m. Eastern
Downloading
time?
it. It's gonna take 5 hours on our internet here.
I'm sorry.
I'm not
We
gonna
should
play
get better
it.
internet here.
Yeah, I wish.
I think I'm going to sit it out. I don't think I'm going to play it. I think I'm going to
Yeah,
just wait until that
you're
game
gonna
is
wait.
out.
Yeah, that's what I feel. Like it's only a month, so I know I'm gonna play that. And if it was like, oh, here's an exclusive scene that's not, what I mean, like it was something, not just the game. Like I don't blame anyone for downloading it, but yeah, I think I'm gonna wait too. I'm like really excited to play it, but I don't feel a need to.
I feel like I need to know what that's gonna feel like. I don't know. I thought 15 was all right and it looks similar, but I don't know.
The combat feels good.
I'm
Like
not playing
my
it.
guess is it's very similar to what I played at E3 last year. And
Probably.
If I
yeah,
could
yeah.
download, if the demo was just a combat arena, I might fuck around with it. But I don't want to see any of that stuff more than I've seen already, probably. Not that it's like spoilery or like, it's a funny thing is like, I don't mind reading spoilers. I just don't want to play through the same shit twice.
Sure.
Unless
Right,
is it a,
right.
and I'd rather just wait. I'm just going to wait. I'm not going to. I was like, well, what if they let me
Yeah, it's a
import
month.
it? Blah, 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 blah,
Right,
blah.
right. Then you don't have
yeah,
to.
Yeah. Before we move on really quick.
You know what's fascinating about
go
this
ahead, Rob.
Valorant thing?
Go ahead. Yes.
The way that they appear to be taking the lack of like volumetric fog in Counter-Strike historically and just making that like the aesthetic of the game.
Yeah, that is it.
Like you just walk into giant like
I guess you want to explain what that shit is, like what that looks like here.
yeah, okay. So if you like in Counter-Strike, when like smoke is basically opaque. Like if you like once smoke is popped, it completely closes off line of sight in a corridor. It doesn't look anything like actual smoke, right? It doesn't look like somebody popped smoke.
Right.
Valorant is trying to do that, but is leaning into it as like part of the aesthetic. And so the way they seem to be creating the smoke effect is through these powers that really do look like Willy Wonka's like chocolate factory just exploded all over the level. and people are just like wandering into like floods of really candy colored goo, right? It's a strange thing.
Totally. And it seems to be like a power set that multiple characters have to some degree. There's like a big green and red like fog wall, and there's also someone who throws like a dome, like a much more localized thing. It's like a swirling dome that again feels, I don't know. It's a look. I'll say that. I'm really curious about this thing.
Yeah.
I was going to say really quick before we move on past the Riot stuff. They were back in the news last week as a new legal team was basically like, hey, y'all settled for 10 million or that last suit ended with a $10 million settlement to be paid, but actually that should be worth 400 million. And that's the settlement about, or that's the case again about gender discrimination. I didn't want to like have this segment without mentioning that shit is still ongoing. And that when that last case, wrapped up, it was a $10 million settlement, which is like pennies in the bank for a company that big.
Yeah.
Especially, and when I say company that big, I mean both in terms of revenue, but also in terms of just like how many women work at that company, which is a lot. So we'll see how this new leg of the lawsuit goes. We talked about Valorant. We talked about Final Fantasy VII Remake briefly. We talked about other important shit like Destiny and Dreams. I'm going to shout out.
Talk about GDC yet?
Oh, do you want to talk about?
God.
We should talk about GDC.
Probably.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that was one of those things that like happened. That was one of those things that was like happened so slowly.
It happened it all feels like it happened 2 weeks ago.
Exactly, because it started happening 2 weeks ago. Do you know what I mean? And also, it was a long weekend.
Yeah.
Patrick, do you want to bring us up to speed?
Yeah, the short version is that starting a couple of weeks back, Sony announced that they were pulling out of PAX East fairly last minute the week before PAX East happened, saying that there were concerns that they had about the coronavirus enough to not want to send a lot of their international employees to PAX, and so they decided kind of just to shut the whole thing down. There was supposed to be playable Last of Us 2, so like there was like big reasons for Sony to be at, Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming out in a month. So they decided to back out of that. And then they quickly backed out of GDC, which then led to pretty much like every day over the last couple of weeks, a different big company, whether Electronic Arts or a Facebook or a Unity or an Epic Games, to announce that they were also deciding to not attend GDC. That on some level felt like a lot of people maybe being like, not it, like don't want to be the person that sends our people there and then people get sick and then there's a bunch of headlines written about we're the studio that forged ahead and sent people. And then also just I think genuine concern over a virus that, is now, over the weekend, there's a lot more activity happening in the US. People are kind of skittish. And I think it's understandable to want to be overly cautious when there aren't clear answers on what the end state of what is happening here. But it increasingly became obvious that a thing like GDC was going to be severely impacted because a lot of what the Game Developers Conference is professionals revealing sort of like development lessons. It's a lot of socializing that happens whether on the show floor or privately off at dinners and other little events that happen at night and parties. It's students coming out to hang out with those. They're like mentorship programs. There are a lot of international people that come to visit. It just suddenly seemed like, all right, so a lot of these big companies are pulling out. So for recruitment, if you're paying $200 for the expo pass where you can go walk around the expo floor, which is largely like a recruitment center for big studios. Well, if they're not there, well, then that's okay. What's happening here? And then privately, I was hearing last week was that even though the big headlines were about these game companies pulling out, that the schedule and the presentations were getting dire, where they were having to do sweeps to revisit with different studios to be like, are there ways you can either do it virtually or are there different people who would be willing to come out? And it was like apparently a lot worse than was publicly known. And it just became a growing feeling that they're going to have to cancel this. But unlike Facebook canceling their conference in May, or if E3 was ever to cancel sometime in the next couple months, GDC was supposed to happen in a couple of weeks, in which that created a lot of financial distress for GDC as an organization and an event, and then also distress for various people who were not necessarily being covered by a big developer to fly out, but were, putting up their own dime because the GDC passes are bare minimum
expensive.
220 and then 224, something like that. And then if you want an all access pass that gets you access to everything, it's more than $2,000. And my understanding is from someone familiar with GDC's financial history is that it's a significant portion of their revenue. It's not like, oh, refund all that stuff and, they'll be okay. Like, that's the money they, they can be fairly dinged for how they handle the economics of GDC, but it is not, it is also true that they make a lot of money. They justify the development of GDC based on those expensive passes. So, a really messy situation. There's been a couple.
What is the situation for people looking for refunds then at this point? Are they getting?
You can get refunds for your passes, but I think and then it sounds like GDC actually, to their credit, worked out deals with all the hotels that were part of blocks that were reserved under GDC so that you could get discounts.
Right.
You can now get a full refund without penalty. That does, there's nothing GDC itself can do about like flights, which are probably some of the most expensive things for folks who are coming.
If you booked outside of their blocks of hotel
Right.
rooms, right? There's probably tons of people. I shouldn't speculate. I don't know what the specifics are there, but I suspect there are people who did not get those hotel rooms, right? Based on how other conventions do similar and conferences do similar sorts of things. It is like one of those things where, again, it happened in such slow motion that I was like, yeah, this is going to get canceled for sure. But I was still surprised to see it happen somehow. I think partially it's also just like it's amid ongoing conversations about the utility of GDC, the fact that GDC is in the States, the fact that it is super expensive, like it's one more thing, and in a year where we're already rethinking, other events in the kind of gaming sphere. I'm curious if this ends up leading to, what happens with GDC next year. I guess do they still have the Moscone Center like under contract for a number of years? Because that's the real thing about
I don't know the specifics, but like, most likely you don't tend to do that year over year. You tend to sign like a 5-10 year deal committing that you're going to be there. They've since said that they called it, we're postponing GDC. I wrote a headline that said you're canceling GDC because moving it to an ambiguous summer event that may or may not happen is you can call that a postponing, but the March event has been canceled. My guess is they still do something. I don't know what it'll be. It'll probably be a lot smaller than, it won't be something nearly on the scale of what GDC typically is, but if only to try and recoup whatever cost that they can from this year, because, I don't know the specifics on how they can, part of the financial equation of events like this is what money can you get back as an event? If you is the coronavirus, was GDC shut down because San Francisco told them to? No, GDC elected to shut GDC down. So like for financial purposes, would an insurance company, because often with events you will get insurance that is like supposed to cover emergencies like this, but like what does that mean exactly? Like, and I can't speak to the specifics of that, but
if the government came in and said you have to shut this down, then my guess is that the insurance
that's not
company
an act of God,
right, exactly, right. That's interesting. That's an interesting element there. Damn. Well, hearts out to those people who are out of pocket for cash, because I'm sure there are people out there who already bought flights, who already had accommodations set up, who had spent money to do some other stuff nearby. Like that stuff happens. So I hope.
Well, there are going to be two funds that are. Let's see, what was. There are two different groups that are going to be doing sort of emergency funds that they're trying to put together for folks who are going to be financially distressed as a result of this. I am bullshitting as I scroll back slightly to find one of them that I can shout out. It is... Shoot. Here's my tweet thread. Okay. GameDev.world is going to be doing a fundraising event later in March. I don't know that's run by a bunch of reputable folks, including Rami Ismail. So has some legitimacy behind it. I don't know exactly how you'll be able to apply. I don't know the specifics of that quite yet, but I'm sure they're going to work some of that stuff out as they work towards the end of March. And then I don't have the details in front of me, but I know there's another fund that's being put together to try and help folks that are financially distressed. Like one of the things I put in my story last week, or a couple of stories, was that I was talking to one studio in which they were both sending people to GDC for presentations and also just, hey, we want to send people to be representatives of our studio down at GDC. And then they were also allowing people to pay out of pocket. And when the coronavirus stuff was happening, they were offering to cover the out of pocket costs for people that no longer wanted to go and could not get refunds for whatever reason. And so that's cool, but that's a unique situation relative to, say, another developer I heard from who was a tiny independent developer that was supposed to show their game at the Independent Games Festival, and they're from India, and four of them scrounged together money to come out, and they don't have like a cancellation policy they can turn to.
Right.
And so hopefully something like this will be able to alleviate, if not everybody, at least, more than,
those cases
would have been
Yeah.
otherwise. So yeah, that's where we're at. E3 told me they don't, they
don't
sent
have
me
any
a funny
plans?
statement.
No?
They sent me a funny statement that was, I just want to read it.
Yeah,
Hi,
please.
Patrick. Everyone is watching the situation very closely. We will continue to be vigilant as our first priority is the health, wellness, and safety of all of our exhibitors and attendees. Given what we know this time, we are moving ahead full speed with E3 2020 planning. That's where they should have ended their statement. And then there was another line. Exhibit and registration sales are on track for an exciting show in June. So, which I guess, given all the speculation about if E3 is in trouble, I suppose I understand why they sneak something like that in there. But
Everything is
I don't know.
good. We're not sinking.
Yeah.
Keep playing, orchestra.
The country that is taking, that most directly impacts the intersection of video games is Japan, and they're taking this extremely seriously. They're shutting down schools for a month starting, I think, this week. And so if Japan as a country essentially pulled out of E3, Japan is basically what started the GDC ball rolling towards cancellation. And so, if they understandably chose to say, actually, yeah, we're not going to do E3 either, I think that would put, if Nintendo just doesn't go to E3, like it does, you know what I mean? Like if Nintendo just doesn't go and they say, you know what, we can do a direct, we're fine, we're cool, we'll do like little press events locally and like, that's fine. That would be, a huge hiccup for them. So I don't think it's off the table. I don't think it's necessarily
When a
something
hiccup,
we'll hear about tomorrow.
a hiccup that in a year where it's already looking kind of dire, right? I'm sorry, exciting and whatever else they fucking said. No, like it is what we came into this year saying, I wonder what's up with E3, right? I think you can have a fair and honest conversation about whether you expect this to be the last E3, whether or not that's a safe there's whether or not that's accurate or whatever. Like that's a conversation you can have over a dinner table. And that is this could definitely throw a wrench into their plans, especially shifting to an even more public focused event. We want more people than ever in this small space.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. God.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Any other news you want to hit before I shout out this game that is Rob?
I don't think so.
What's up?
What do you got there, bud? What was that noise?
Oh, just a delicious mango seltzer.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Alcoholic seltzer?
A White Claw? You got
Is that a White Claw?
What do you got going on?
White Claw?
I had a mango White Claw last night.
The moment we're recording a podcast on a Monday morning and Rob opens a White Claw is the moment I just turn it off. I turn around and like, fine. You know what, Rob solo cast.
Yeah.
Just let him go.
Woo! Would love to see it.
Taco Tuesday is brought to you by whoever the fuck makes seltzer with booze in it. A thing I just can't find the use case for in my life.
Fair.
Cado said that he drank a mango White Claw last night.
Yeah. I was playing D&D. My friends had mango White Claws.
Is it good?
There's the
It
use
was
case. There's the use case right there, D&D.
Yeah,
You want
it
to feel
tastes good.
crisp, but also get a little buzzed.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You can't feel too heavy.
Stay frosty.
Yeah, exactly.
What occurred to you, Patrick?
A frosty mug of hard seltzer.
Listen, man. I think that the ship has sailed on shit talking hard seltzer. People are here for it. It happened.
Yeah.
That happened last year.
Yeah.
We're like the ship has sailed on being excited for it. Also, it's not
Right.
just a thing that exists.
It's
just
just
in the rotation.
Yeah.
God. What occurred to you, Patrick? You said something occurred to you.
Oh yeah, I just I think it'll go up later today because I have to finalize it after we do this podcast. Is So over the weekend, The Long Dark, that like
Survival.
yeah, a game that got like story components as time went on. They publicly talked about how they asked NVIDIA to take their game off of GeForce Now because they said they didn't ask for permission to put the game there, so we're asking them to take it down. That comes right as I was finalizing. This would have happened last week, except for the GDC stuff. I've been working on a big feature about GeForce Now, its legality, and the fact that companies like Activision and others asked to have their games taken down. And then when I reached out to the developers of like Into the Breach and Celeste, I was like, hey, do you have like agreements with NVIDIA over this stuff? Do you have a problem with it? And they're both like, well, we don't have a problem, but no, we don't have agreements. They never reached out. And just sort of walking through just like the weirdness of the service that NVIDIA is providing, which is a great one. I know, Rob, you said recently that you came out to New York and then finished a round of
came
Total
out a
War.
complete believer.
Yeah.
Like playing like 4 hours of Total War 3 Kingdoms on like truly dog shit hotel Wi-Fi and having that be good. I was like, this is maybe the first time I've been optimistic about the future in years.
Fuck. That's all we needed.
God.
So I think it is an open question because one of the things that was interesting about the piece I was working on was that I finally realized as I was putting it together is like the companies that have asked to limit their games, Electronic Arts, Bethesda, and Activision, are all the companies that are investing in their own cloud services. So it would make sense that they take issue with being listed on a cloud service when they would like to exert power and resources over that on their own. So I think go ahead.
Just a question for you: does that extend to like? I have a bunch of those games on my Steam account, and that's how I'm using NVIDIA. GeForce Now is I am opening my Steam account through that service and then installing what I want on a remote machine.
Mm-hmm.
Are they trying to get a carve out there so that their games can't even be offered through that?
Correct.
That seems like it would be tricky to administer.
So I don't know exactly how it works, but in the past, when GeForce Now is in beta, you could just load up the GeForce Now UI, and it could launch a game and like get you set up to like, hey, you just click, it'll install. Certain games were like pre-installed, like they have partnerships where you just launch it and it would be the kind of like a Stadia-like experience where you're just going right into the game. But you could like basically tab out of the UI and just install whatever you want. And now there are measures in place to stop you from doing that if a game is actively not supported by GeForce Now. I think there might still be some tricks that allow you to do. I was watching YouTube videos of like, hey, because like EA only supports Apex Legends, but there are like ways to like trick Origins to like let you install other games. Because GeForce Now is not a game-specific tech; it is just a carte blanche tech. As Gita enters the room,
That's Gita entering the room. Yeah.
So they're just turning it off per game, but not because there's anything specific about the tech. It's really truly just partnerships, and the legality of it is tricky. Like the lawyers I talked to basically said, well, push comes to shove, like NVIDIA could probably take various studios to court if they wanted to over like what is actually listed in a EULA, an end user license agreement. Blizzard is the only company that explicitly lists like, hey, we ban cloud services. You just cannot use them for our games. It is explicitly written out in their EULA. About 18 months ago, they added one that's like, hey, if you use. This is back when they had a couple of services existed like Parsec and Shadow, where you just rent a PC and you can do whatever you want in that PC. And I used Shadow briefly last year. I mentioned it on this podcast where you launch it and like a Windows update occurs. Like you are just using a PC-ass PC. But they put in their terms of service that they did not want. They were not allowing you to do that. And they were issuing 30-day bans if they caught you using one of those services. And so... yeah, it's a weird thing where like, like the Fallout 4 EULA, for example, it says something along the lines of like, you have a license to use this copy of Fallout 4 for non-commercial use. And then the argument from the lawyers I spoke to is like, well, NVIDIA is charging you money to play this game on their virtualized machine. That sure seems like a commercial use of your license, and thus... That is standard in most like video game EULAs, the ones that have them. And at that point, then any developer can realistically say, well, yeah, you're NVIDIA is making money off of our game, and you are using your license, so NVIDIA can use it for commercial use.
Well, in NVIDIA's like defense, they just click through that.
yeah.
Just go to court, just get your best lawyers on it, and just be like, look, this shit's unenforceable. Do you have any idea how long this EULA was?
Well, but
We just want to run some games and stream them.
It's like talking, maybe developers will feel differently, like the developers of Into the Breach and Celeste that I talked to, but they both were like, well, if it means more people can play, like you still have to buy the game, right? Like you buy it on Steam and then you are using GeForce Now to play it. I think for a lot of developers, they will just kind of shrug and go, this seems like a net good. But I think it's not going to be unsurprising if bigger developers maybe push around their muscle and say, actually, we'd like to have like a specific agreement with you in which perhaps every time a game is launched that is their game, you get a slice of the royalties that come along with it. So
I'm curious.
Anyway,
too,
so
I'm curious too how that's going to affect large publishers versus small developers. Like The Long Dark actually saying like, don't do this, and it being respected is a good sign that they're not just going to like bowl over indies. But I think in general it is interesting to and also historically one of the things that ends up happening is that independent developers often lean into technologies like this or like emerging trends as a way of like reaching an audience that they might not otherwise reach or end up being a little more flexible. It's like part of what it means to be independent. So maybe we'll actually see something like that where you get a lot of people saying like, yeah, of course you can play our game on this thing. This thing is cool. Like, please play our game on this thing. Hey, we're going to develop a thing for hardware that maybe you don't have access to, but if you use this NVIDIA thing, it totally works. We'll see. I'm curious. Hi, Gita. Gita is here.
I'm here. I made it. I had an early morning call with someone who lives in the UK. So
fair.
Yeah.
Absolutely fair.
I initially scheduled it for 8 a.m. and then I was like, wait a second, that's Monday at 8 a.m.
That's Monday at 8 a.m.
Not going to happen.
No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No. Yeah, 9 a.m. almost didn't happen, but it worked out. He was a nice guy. Hi.
We sell you on getting up at 3:30 in the morning.
We're going to take a fucking break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some strategy games.
Yes.
We're going to talk about all sorts of shit. So, Patrick, you ducking out?
Yeah, I'm gonna go finish that NVIDIA
Right,
piece.
sounds
so
good.
I will.
I just want to make sure, has anyone noted the sweater you're wearing today, which says I'm allergic to Green Bay?
Oh, Green Bay. I thought it
It's
said
real
Green
good.
Day.
Green
Oh my god! Fuck you!
That's what I
get off this podcast.
Maybe blue and orange.
If you didn't think that Patrick thinks that Dookie's a good album,
I do
No
think
way-
that he
I
thinks
did
that.
think
I do
Dookie's.
think that.
Dookie's
Yeah,
a good
That's
album.
why I
was like
confused,
definitive to
but I didn't
my-
want to bring it up. It's like maybe something
I mean,
changed.
that new album is got that bad. What
I heard like current era Green Day fans are so not about the new album. They're like, what the hell is going
Wait,
on?
what's
Yeah.
the song? What's the new?
It's just like they're high on their own supply.
I
now.
see.
there was some shit. They were trying to be too cool for anything, and it was bad. There was an advertisement that went around.
The
for
Father
a
of All
second.
Motherfuckers is the name of the album,
Oh my
which like number
God.
one. Maybe we thought your shirt was related to that, but
This
this
is what
one,
I'm saying. Is I was confused. But thank you.
this is way more on brand for Patrick.
Yeah, this
Klepek.
makes more sense.
Yeah, I listened to Green Day till American Idiot, and I was like, nah, I'm good. Like,
It was the right
Yeah.
point to jump off.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, it was like, there's your Green album.
There
Congrats.
is a very good podcast that I listen to about music that I'm going to recommend this one episode to you called "And Introducing," and they do sort of read autobiographies of musicians, and sort of go through their discographies and the songs they mention in there. But they did one episode about the American Idiot Broadway musical because there is
Right,
an
yes.
article, a long form
Right.
article about it, and I highly recommend listening to that article because it is absolutely wild.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for the recommendation.
no problem.
We're gonna take a break. I'm gonna go listen to that article. I'm not gonna do that. That's not true. I'm gonna go get some water. And then, Patrick, where can people find you on the internet?
You find me at Patrick Klepek.
And if you have COVID-19 related, like,
If you have COVID-19.
or info about people canceling events, you should send them to Patrick. This is me.
I don't know why
Just
I thought
saying.
you were gonna say canceling COVID.
What? No, yeah. You know what, guys?
You know
This is
what?
a call
How
out.
to cancel COVID-19.
I'm
That's
gonna
a
call
great
out
headline
first.
today. on the post, it was coronavirus defying travel restrictions spreads to more countries. I was like,
You know what?
coronavirus, get your shit together.
Coronavirus
You've been told off.
Canceled.
Yeah, you know what?
Canceled, guys.
I won't take this tone policing of COVID-19. Things are real out here. God, all right. We can't even end a segment without going long. Let's take a break. Patrick, thank you for joining us. I hope you have a good week.
All right. See ya.
BRB. We are back, and finally, Gita, you're here, which means I can have the actual conversation I want to have.
Damn.
Granblue Fantasy.
Rip to Patrick.
Rip to Patrick, but I'm different. I've had, you might know this, election brain. Mm-hmm. It's exhausting to be all the way just like tuned in all the time. Mm-hmm. There's nowhere I can look in my life where I'm not like stressing. And so I've started a mobile game.
Oh, wow. I love
actually,
this.
This is only
Hold
like
on,
half
not
of
just
a-
you.
What's up?
Not just a mobile game.
No, I mean, I played it on a browser.
A gotcha. Well,
A gotcha game.
a gotcha game specifically is what I'm saying.
Yes.
The most toxic of mobile games, the gotcha game.
Oh, well, it can be.
Yeah.
I've not put any money into it yet.
Okay,
but I
good.
did start
When you start looking up
Wait,
the
did you put
likelihoods
any
of
money
getting
into it?
the
No.
thing you want in your polls is when you know that it's reached full on toxicity.
The thing that I did do is wait to start until it was a specific window, so that if
Yeah.
I ever decide to put money in, I will get what I want from it better than if I.
That's
Does
really smart.
does that window come up very often?
What do you mean? Yes, sort of.
How
Sort of.
often?
So monthly.
Monthly,
There's okay.
You got to go to the beginning, June.
So actually, this starts about a month. This starts like 2 months ago when I'm looking at Granblue Versus footage. Granblue Versus is coming out soon. It's a fighting game.
Yeah.
It looks really cool.
It does.
It's by Arxis, who's
Right.
put out the Dragon Ball Fighter Z. They have a new Guilty Gear coming soon.
Yeah.
They're the BlazBlue folks.
They're blowing up.
Anime fighters, they're here for real.
Yeah.
And Granblue Versus look cool because one, it looked like a simplified anime fighter in some ways. There are anime fighter is like, I wouldn't call it a pejorative, but how
It's being reclaimed.
as an outsider, Rob, when I say anime fighter, what do you think I mean?
I think you mean something really complicated and like requiring of deep and somewhat obscure study. That's the reputation that anime fighters generally have, like across the board, right?
Yeah.
Largely because of Arxis.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, largely because they put out games that have layer after layer of obscure and obscurantist design. Like it's a hard way in and a harder way out. I don't know how if you're in BlazBlue, like good luck going elsewhere. I don't know.
I used to date a guy that was really into fighting games and really into Arxis games also. I mean, playing Marvel vs. Capcom against him was awful because I could just put the controller down.
Right, like you're just gonna this
Yeah,
is
it's like,
over.
okay, cool, I'm gonna go grab a beer. Like,
right.
but the Arxis, it was just like I got resoundingly beaten by him playing Guilty Gear, which is a
Sure.
game I know how to play, right?
Right.
Like I know Jam's moves. I've had them memorized since I was like
But it is
17.
not enough to know the moves.
No. And he was like, oh, I was like, that really wasn't fun because you beat me so resoundingly.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And he was like, why don't you practice? And I was
Wow.
like, my dude,
Yo.
I suck your dick.
That's how that insult goes.
on.
Yeah.
Like-
Perfect. So that is like my experience with anime fighters generally. I was like, damn, this looks good as shit. I'm just getting fucking walloped. Just getting whipped in the streets. Like Granblue Fantasy Versus, just Granblue Versus. Granblue Versus.
Versus, I think,
I was
yeah.
like, damn, this was good. It's simpler. It straight up has Smash Brothers special move button inputs. There's
you
just
serious?
a special button that you can hit that is like special button forward, special button and backward, special button and down to do the different moves if you're like worried about execution in that way.
Oh, this shit comes out tomorrow?
Does it? Versus is tomorrow?
Yeah.
Damn.
damn
I
it.
guess
March 3rd.
Well, I can't talk about that I've played that, even though it's actually technically already out in areas where I could have technically imported it. I would say that game looks really cool. And that the footage I've seen seems dope, and that the thing that I think is most appealing from what I've seen on the internet, not from playing it, is the lesson stuff, the like tutorial, not the tutorial, but it has like a really in-depth, hey, do you need to know what a cross-up is?
Yeah.
Do you need to know like some very fundamental stuff?
This is what
That
every
stuff
fighting game needs.
It's like really, it seems really good in that
Okay.
thing. Also, there's an RPG mode that does not look particularly good, but is still kind of fun to fuck around with. Anyway, I saw that a couple months ago. I was like, damn, maybe I should finally get into Granblue. Damn, I wonder if they're going to do any events around the same time as when Granblue Versus comes out.
Yeah.
Also, I kind of want to just know who these characters are, right? Like, I already know Luane. I know, like, the 3 Catboys who are, like goofy bros. I know them because of just osmosis. And I know, like, there's a character named Gran. I know there's not a character named Blue as far as I know.
It's his fantasy.
It's his fantasy. We just live in it.
Is this the one that has Mozart in it?
No, you're thinking of Fate.
Fate Grand Order
Fate
is
Grand
the one with
Order
the historical
is the
figures.
historical figures,
Gotcha.
yes. This is the one. Cado, stop me if you heard this one before. So there are primals. And there's primal beasts and there are crystals.
Okay.
And like there's a lot
there
of this shit.
calamities?
I want to show you a character real quick that you tell me. I'll show you this character. Is this a Final Fantasy 14 or is this a Granblue Fantasy? Look, Cado. It's just like a person.
Both.
That's both.
Both.
They're saying primal crystal technology. That's both of these games.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, but also Sakura Kinomoto from Cardcaptor Sakura, according to the Google search of Granblue Fantasy that I just did, apparently is a character in this game.
There's a lot of crossover characters.
Wait,
Okay,
what?
There's
but
a
also
Code Geass.
Lancelot.
Excuse
Yeah, there's
me?
Lancelot, but it's a different Lancelot.
And then
It's not the
Honoka from Magical Doremi, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of crossovers. Like I said, there's a code. I'm waiting to level up enough so I can get the characters from Code Geass and their giant robots in Granblue Fantasy.
Lena Inverse? I'm just reading the
there's-
most
so a
notable
lot of
ones.
these characters might not
Wait,
even be
Slayers?
available anymore. Yeah, Slayers. There's Slayers crossover. There was a Zone of the Enders crossover. Trust me.
Oh my
I'm paying
God.
attention. There was a Sakura Wars crossover. There
Shit.
was a Love Live crossover.
Fuck.
Our mutual friend Allie is upset that she didn't get all the Love Live characters, unfortunately.
I'm so
anyway,
sorry for her.
So what you're hearing right now is this is a game with 1 billion fucking playable characters.
Yeah.
So I had already been thinking about it. Then last week I was like, oh shit. It is Super Tuesday's coming up. I need something to do on this computer that is not looking at Twitter, that is not looking at the wonderful Waypoint Discord politics chat, which has been a boon and a respite for me. But I need something else that is just like up on my screen that I can half pay attention to, or that I can like check in on when I'm not working on something, just to keep just to like bleed some of that attention off, sand it down a little bit. I should get into Granblue Fantasy. And so I messaged like 3 of my friends and like 2 different Discords. Hey, should I start playing Granblue now? Is this the right time? And everyone was like, you should. Okay. Everyone's first message was the same, which was, you should play when you're ready. Like, you should play when you feel like playing. It doesn't matter. The second response was, for a lot of the people, were like, you should wait until it's Leg Fest.
Leg Fest?
Yeah. Wait until it's Leg Fest.
Leg.
What?
So
And then they were like, and then it's the 6th anniversary right after Lake Fest. And I was like, what's Lake Fest?
yeah, that would be the question you
Very
have to
leg
ask.
fest.
Hey, let me tell you, I would think something called Lake Fest would only happen. How often do you think a Lake Fest is? How often could you fit a Lake Fest into your life?
I really could only have one Leg Fest a year. I'm not gonna lie.
I got to tell you, in the world of Granblue Fantasy, a Lake Fest happens basically every month. It's the end of every month for 4 days.
Oh my God.
It's Lake Fest.
It's Leg Fest.
I don't work my legs at all
Yeah.
month. And those last 4
Wow.
days,
You just
Lake Fest.
obliterate them.
Bop, bop, bop.
100 deadlifts.
Let's go. It's also called the Premium Gala, or in Japan, the Legend Festival. So I guess it's technically a Ledge Fest, but Ledge Fest sounds like
Ledge
the
Fest.
worst. Like
Ledge Fest is much worse than Leg Fest.
Ledge Fest is the worst like rock event I've ever been to. Like the worst. Like it's like Ozfest, but for people who are like we're legends of classic rock.
Oh wow.
This is miserable.
Wow. It's like
and none of them
corn.
are. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
Ledge Fest is when you line up a whole bunch of half-empty glasses of water at the edge of a tabletop.
Yes.
For your cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Ledge Fest. Yeah.
Enjoy. So Lakefest is when the draw rates are higher for your gacha pools, and also I think you just get. I want to see maybe you get some extra crystals or something. I think maybe your pools are just better. Your draws are just better. In general, people save up all of their in-game currency at the end of a month. They're like, yes, time to fucking bop.
I like that system more than just having constant events.
Yes.
That
There are
are-
also constant events.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But at
they're
least-
like story events. That's a different.
Yeah, but like at least with like one time of month where you know you'll get the best bang for your buck. You can participate in the other events if you want to, but if you
Yes.
don't care and you just want to wait for Legfest, that it feels a lot healthier than I was playing this like weird cooking
Right,
one where you anthropomorphized foods, and it was really cute. It was really fun.
Is that which one is that?
Oh, I don't know. I removed it from my phone because I started spending too much money on it.
Is
Great. Is that?
But it was based off of the same people who did
I remember we got a thing for it.
Love Nikki.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so it
And
was,
Love Nikki is dope.
Love Nikki
is like
rocks.
a fashion.
It's a fashion version of this.
Yeah.
Like it's like a gotcha, but the gotcha stuff you get is clothes.
right.
And then the same company did one that's based on food, where you have to run a restaurant that passively earns you stuff, and then you also use your anthropomorphized foods to fight battles.
Like you do.
And and that one is just like events overlapping with events. So there is always the best time to spend money is now.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. So I was at that point, I was like, no, I'm not doing it. Bye. And that was actually more like 2 weeks ago, I guess I'd say. Then last week, a Twitter user, I want to say it was Minovsky article, who shout outs to Minovsky article is very good. Also has a great name. And I believe it was him. He was like, hey, I don't talk about this, but I've been playing Granblue Fantasy. It's pretty good. It's cool to just have a JRPG in my pocket. I'm not playing it super seriously, but I'm having a lot of fun.
Oh, that
And I was
sounds
like, that's a way to think about this.
yeah.
It's just like, what if I'm just playing a game? What if that's it? What if all I'm doing is I have this game, it's a nice, simple, like thing I can retreat to,
Yep.
play on my phone, have up in a browser, etc. So last week I then reached back out to certain friends and I was like, all right, should I start now or should I wait 2 or 3 days for Lakefest? Because now I understand what a Lakefest is.
Yep.
No, you should wait the 3 days. It's fine. It's
a good idea.
Here's the reason why you want to start in a Lakefest. It's not just because the pools are better and you get a lot of extra pools. When I say a pool in these games, gotcha games, for people who have no idea what the fuck we're talking about when we say gotcha,
it's not gotcha. Like
no.
like a
but it's short, but it is a little bit.
Yeah.
It's gachapon, which is like the toy, like the 25-cent. Like, actually, they're probably more than that now.
Yeah.
Like little
the little capsule
capsule
things.
toys. Yeah, exactly.
In Japanese, it's an onomatopoeia for
Gachapon.
Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
That's so cute.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, see, I have it. I've internalized it.
Yes.
The sound of the machine is in me. These are games where you end up like doing pulls or draws where you are spending money or spending in-game currency to recruit new characters, to get extra weapons, to, in my experience, get new mechs, for instance, conceptually, or mech parts.
Make friends with Pokemon
To make
trainers who
you
bring
could make right. There's a Pokemon one exactly. There's a bunch
Get more
of things.
anthropomorphized foods.
Or anthropomorphized, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So, in Lakefest, the chances of getting a good one, to get a super, super rare character is higher, right? But it's also, and this is the money thing, whenever you start, you get a thing called a beginner draw set, which is you can draw 10 things, weapons or characters or summons. It's like a mix. And then at the end, pick. Oh, when I say you get one of these, what I mean is you spend $30 on one.
Oh wow!
But you have this window
Wait.
to do it, and if you do it, you get 10 characters or 10
Wait.
draws, and then also you just get to pick something from the pool.
Austin,
What's up?
Did
I didn't do this yet,
Okay.
and here's why.
Okay.
Because while it says it's a beginner, when it says beginner draw set and it says this is available for 7 days only, what they mean is 7 days only until the next time we offer this to you, which will be in a month. Because in a month, they'll be like, hey, do you want to go back and buy that thing that you didn't buy a month ago? And my answer eventually might be yes.
Huh.
And the pool that is available of characters for that you just like get one of
Yeah.
is tied to when you started. And so,
Right.
because I started in the Leg Fest, there are more characters available in that pool, and this is the sort of fucking game I'm playing now.
How long
One in
is
which that sentence that I just said makes sense to me
Yeah.
and means something to me.
How long does that leg fest go for?
4 days. So
Okay.
my I'm out of it now.
Yeah.
But I think it's still going right now.
Oh, okay, because I'm looking it up because you've already talked me into downloading this.
Hell
so
yeah.
I just
You're
want to
welcome.
see
You
what
don't,
the hell
let me
is
tell you
up.
something else.
Yeah.
You don't need to download shit. It's a browser-based game, even
Yeah.
on phones, which also means my battery doesn't die super quick while I'm playing it, which is nice.
That actually rocks.
The counter thing there, though, is it gave me some weird issues on trying to play on my phone, but I got it working. It's fine. I had to deactivate a security feature. That sounds worse than it is. All of this is leading to this is a game with like hundreds of characters, and like it's basically just a very simple JRPG. I'm like not even at the point yet where most fights are anything. I mostly just hit the attack button and win fights. But there are like raids, there's all sorts of stuff, and it has been a very fun, like, just a little. It's just been fun to dip my toe in this thing, in the same way that I dip my toe into Final Fantasy 14. You know, for 250 hours.
Yeah.
Just a little dip.
Just a little
Just
dip.
a little dip. I'm not off Final Fantasy 14. I'm like taking a break after beating Stormblood, and I'm going to go through soon and continue that. But I want to
What's
shout
late?
out and say thank you.
Stormblood. What's next?
Shadowbringers.
oh,
Well, I
you're
have to
out-
do Stormblood's patches, and then I'm going to do then Shadowbringers. But I just want to shout out everyone who gave me advice. A lot of people in the Waypoint community were very nice to me, including some moderators like Weedlord Vegeta. Thank you to Weedlord Vegeta.
Lord Vegeta.
Thank you to all of my friends and the friends of friends who've helped advise me. Shouts to Amanda Cosmos. This is my award. This is my acceptance speech for taking the award of you did it. You played this fucking gacha game for 12 hours over the last weekend.
Nice.
But I'm excited now for the fighting game to like actually put more like these characters are going to be around on Twitter for the next month as people come to this world.
I'm ready to be invested in this.
That's what it was for me. It's like,
Yeah.
damn, who's he? He's hot as shit.
Yeah.
Damn, who is she? She looks dope.
Yep,
Like,
yep.
That is the vibe for all of these characters.
I was watching Amanda Cosmos talk about, it was either Amanda or Allie, who had re-downloaded the new updated version of Love Live. And I was just thinking back to when I first got into Love Live, and it was the original OG flavor.
Yeah.
And they're talking about how they have classic versions of all the characters now. So it's a mix of old girls and new girls.
Yeah.
And I had this feeling of like, I want a gacha game because it's just enough game for me to do on the train. Now that my commute is so short, it's only 15 minutes.
Perfect.
I need something a
Run
lot
a quest.
shorter
That's the other
than
thing, is, like-
most games I have to play.
Right.
You know?
Granblue Fantasy is basically a JRPG visual novel. Like, it's a lot of reading. The thing you're doing is like, oh, wow, I got a new character, and it unlocks, and this is going to sound confusing, it unlocks a fate, which is not tied to Fate, Grand Order.
Okay.
A fate is just like, here's a little story snippet for them. That's fun.
That's cute. I'm just watching Rob Zachney very politely observe us have this in-depth conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate Rob's patience while we work through this.
I appreciate
it.
Rob.
I have one last thing, and I'm gonna pivot.
Yeah.
What I'm gonna do. Okay, the last thing I'll say about it is one of the most charming things about the game, and it's something I'm still trying to work through, is the appeal of kind of stock fantasy in the like adventure anime style, right? Which you said Lena Inverse earlier.
Yeah.
Is like a pretty common anime vibe.
Yeah.
That's why I love Delicious in Dungeon / Dungeon
Yeah.
Meshi. It's like there's just something about the manga style being applied to kind of stock D&D tropes that does work for me. And I don't say that because I don't have like a compelling argument. I'm not like here to like spin you a tale about synthesis and
you,
cross-cultural blah, 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 blah.
But
I don't have that argument developed. It's just nice. It hits me in a warm spot
It's
because
what
of what I
I
grew up with.
Yeah, it's what I want most modern approaches, like fluffy approaches to fantasy tropes to actually be, is like Slayers.
Right,
Where it's like
right.
pretty tropey, but there's enough surprises because it comes from a culture that has its own tropes
Right.
of
And so they're
storytelling.
blended in different ways.
Yeah, so you see, I mean, I had to stop watching Made in Abyss after a bit because I just like the way that it treats its underage female characters, especially, just grosses me out way too much. And I read ahead and like even watched like an essay from like an anime YouTuber who was like, "Listen, if this stuff bothers you, it doesn't get better."
This is gonna be it.
Yeah,
This-
and, like,
to
I
be
don't-
clear, I'm not. This is not me like hand waving and being like, and it's
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but like the stuff that worked about Made in Abyss was that it approached like stock fantasy stuff from a completely like perpendicular angle that I'd
Right.
never seen before
Right.
that I was super interested in. Like these are mainly children that go into this like fantasy cave to get resources, and it affects their bodies in really extreme and interesting ways. And then there's really gross about them. But
Of course.
yeah, I wish that I got all that stuff without the gross stuff.
Yeah, fair.
But it seems like most fantasy anime, it does give me like fantasy tropes in like Western style. I've just seen them a million times. Like Lord of the Rings has made it impossible to do anything like original with fantasy anymore. As everything is already in conversation with Lord of the Rings.
Right.
And my thing about Lord of the Rings is that I read those books and a lot of it is just descriptions of maps. And I'm not about that life.
Damn, you don't love maps like that.
I
You
don't-
have the map in your soul.
Only if I'm making the map.
I see.
You know?
Draw
like
maps.
I love strategy games because I'm making the map.
Yes.
Yeah, that map is my story.
Hell yeah. We'll talk about strategy games in literally
Like 1
3
second.
minutes. I want to shout out the bridge I was trying to build or that I am building is to a game I just want to shout out that I'm only going to do a quick shout out to because I just want to put it on people's radars. It's called Gordian Quest, which I think is a bad name.
Yeah.
No offense to the Gordian Knot. No offense to Alexander the Great. You know what?
No beef with Alexander the Great.
You know what? A little bit of beef with Alexander the Great. You know? I'll just, you know. Rob shrugged. Wait, Rob, what is your Alexander the Great take?
I mean, his dad left him a hell of an empire.
Damn.
And
Get him, Rob.
he ran that thing to the edge of the map.
He did.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but no, he just he took the sports car out for a drive and drove the wheels off it.
Yeah.
But he didn't build it.
I loved so much that you were here.
Yeah.
Just
me too.
everything about you, Zachary. You're so great.
Gordian Quest is going into early access later this month. They sent Cado an email that was like, what was their comparison? Slay the Spire
meets Dark Souls.
which is not a good description for what this is. I've not
That's-
played it for 4 hours.
Immediately, my brain is just shut off.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Slay the Spire meets Darkest Dungeon
Okay.
is what it is.
Okay. Now I'm more
now
interested.
you're back in. And I would say an attempt to capture that sort of generic anime fantasy style that we talked about a moment ago.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why I bring it up. I don't know that it works as well in Gordian Quest. It's like a well-made game. It's like, boy, all those drawings are complete drawings. Those are
Right.
characters. Like there's a nice color palette at work here.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly, and this is a game that I've now put 4 hours into. I meant to put like an hour into. I
Okay.
couldn't stop playing it. I don't know that it's not Slay the Spire and it's not Darkest Dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it feels like a blend of those things, it's a very soft blend of those things. It's a very
Interesting.
soft game in comparison in terms of like
Yeah, Darkest Dungeon is all about
it's miserable.
it's pushing
I
your
love it.
face in the dirt.
Yes, and this is not that. This is like this feels built to make me feel strong. Like this is the very like
Interesting.
power fantasy
mean-
card game. So basically you get a part. You have 3 characters in your party. You're doing the Darkest Dungeon style, like dungeon crawl. Except it's like really easy to go back to base and heal and continue. Like it doesn't have any of that pressure. But then you get into fights and you're basically playing Slay the Spire style card game fights with thlike like your equipment gives you different cards in your deck. You have skill sets that you do just level up on a big skill tree. There was a point in this game where I like was filling up one of the characters like level up trees pretty well, and then it was like, "Hey, do you want to attach another sphere grid to this grid?" And I was like, "Oh shit."
Oh my
Yes, I do. I
God.
do want to start building this out.
Multiple
Yep.
sphere
Sphere
grids.
Yeah, basically is
What?
what it was doing.
I imprinted
Okay.
very early on the Final Fantasy X level up like
Yes.
sphere grid thing.
I think it's a messy game. Like I don't know that the design. I think that like one of the things that makes Slay the Spire work is you have to build a build. And that's the way it works.
Yeah.
In this, I'm definitely making very bad decisions about what cards are going in my deck as I level up. And some of that you can change just by changing gear, but some of it's permanent. Some of it's like, no, I just have this thing
Yeah.
until I get an upgrade that lets me pull it out of my fucking deck.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I thought I was doing a poison build, but I'm actually doing a different type of build for this thief character.
Yeah.
Fuck. But it's just so like it feels like it's smoothing my brain out,
Yes.
which I mean in both a positive and a negative way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, I got all these wrinkles in here. I got to get those out.
Who needs
Yeah.
them?
Let me just rip. Okay,
It's
they're
just-
gone.
It's himbo juice.
Yeah, I love it. Please fill me up with this. I need to be thinking less. And so that is Shadows of Gordian Quest. It'll be out later this month.
Nice.
This is
like
not a final
moron.
review. This is very much preview content. Stick
Yeah.
to the embargo.
Like a moron, I absolutely am going to be watching the Super Tuesday results.
Oh,
so this
same.
feels like a very good thing to have on the side
It really
while I'm
it-
stress
yes.
eating my vegan nachos.
There you go.
Yes.
Absolutely. Finally, we can come to talk about what Rob is here for.
Yes.
Rob, you told me 2 different strategy games that I'd only heard from one other person before, which is Cameron Kunzelman, who had been championing them to me via DM for a long time. What do you want to tackle first here? I'm really curious which is taking your fancy.
Yeah, let's talk about Death Crown.
Death Crown. Dope name.
Everyone needs to play Death Crown.
Everyone
Crown.
needs to play Death Crown.
That's
Damn.
intense thing to say.
Talk to me about Death Crown. Wow, this looks
It's
dope.
an intense game.
I forgot which one of
Yeah.
these it was. This is
Yeah, actually,
uh-huh.
everyone should pull up a screenshot of Death Crown.
Okay.
Death Crown is
This
like
whips.
monochromatic.
Yo.
Yeah.
There's black and there's white, and everything is just like shading. All of that is just done with pixels that are one or the other. Basically, death comes for a king, and the king, through foul magics. I hope you would hear the K.
Yeah, I did. I
in
heard
that.
it. Thank you. Appreciate
Through
it.
foul magics, denies death her due,
Oh, what
and escapes. And death has to pursue him and restore the natural order and take away his powers and destroy the things that were turned against her. And that unfolds via a very fast-paced, very stripped-down RTS where you go into a battle. And it's a bit like you got your little castle of death, and then there's the king's castle. It's a hex grid map, and you basically there's 3 buildings you can build. You can build a mine which produces income, but each mine you build produces less and less income. Then you can build towers which shoot enemies, and you can build graveyards which produce troops. Your
Okay, good.
enemies
That's
also
what I
have
confirm. You're death.
same-
You're death.
Yeah.
You are not the corrupt magic using king.
Wait, this is
No.
an art. This game is. I'm
This
looking at
looks so
images. This is
freaking
an
cool.
RTS.
This is an RTS.
This is an RTS. Yes. Don't let the hexes fool you. That's just about like pathing and like territory control. But the entire thing plays out dynamically. So as you so mines don't project control, but graveyards and towers do. So each time you build one of those, the next all the adjacent hexes to it become available for building.
Interesting.
And so you want to think about like what opens up opportunities for expansion, what is going to close off choke points, and what is the way that you want to start smashing down the enemy defenses. And basically it's about like watching this geography change over the course of the game and figuring out like where to sell off your towers and put new ones up, where to convert things into graveyards. And it's dead simple, but it is so completely compelling. You can finish the campaign in like an hour, but it is a perfect hour. Like it's in terms of like perfect like bite-sized games, this is probably in that Adam Zombie Smasher territory for me.
Ooh, yeah.
Which is kind of like the pinnacle of the like quick session game for me.
Shout outs, by the way,
This
just
looks-
generally to Blendo Games and everything in the extended Adam Zombie Smasher universe. This looks dope. What's this sound like? What is it musically? Or is it musically?
No, it is musically.
No, it's TikTok now.
It's
Is this TikTok?
there's kind of a gothic metal quality to the entire thing. Is the way I'd put it. Like the music isn't
Okay, yeah.
super forward, but like when it announces itself, it really announces itself.
Sure.
This looks cool as hell.
This does look cool as hell. That's on Itch and Steam, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
I
it's
played it
$10
on Steam, actually.
$10 on Itch and Steam. I just looked it up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm absolutely going to 100% buy this.
Yeah, this looks
immediately.
great. It has such a distinct look.
Yeah, this reminds me of a thing that I'm playing and I keep forgetting to shout out real quick that I've been playing for a couple of weeks now. Called World of Horror.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That's in early access too right now, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
I believe
I-
it's still early access.
Been in early access for a while. I played it when I first started at Kotaku. With there's a video of me and Chris Person, Kotaku, the highlight reel man, who
Of course,
we
shout out to
played
Chris.
shout out to Chris. We played a very very early version of it. It's changed quite a
I
bit.
think it started Steam early access recently, which is
Okay.
why
Yeah.
they sent out like codes
That makes
again,
sense.
like they did another
Literally,
round or
like
something.
Patricia Hernandez DM'd it to me one day and was
Wow.
like, "You should check this out," and I did. And then I made that video, and the developer is a very sweet person who just loves Junji
I was
Ito.
gonna say, this
Yeah.
is like heavy Junji Ito vibes.
Yeah,
it's
hardcore.
he's done a really good job of taking the sort of main strains, like threads of narrative that Ito weaves through all of his things. You know, a lot of the characters you can play as are his stock main
Yeah,
characters,
yeah.
like plucky high school girl,
Yep.
or salary man who's not paying enough attention, or teenage guy who's just like incredibly listless.
Yeah, it's just like
And it's like, it's basically, the reason you say it's similar is it has a very similar 1-bit style
yeah,
of like
it's a
white and
1-bit
black.
style. I think it's
Very hard to get that style right, and I feel like Death Creme is the only other game I've seen that gets that style correct, like uses the shading techniques in the right way.
yeah.
It feels very true to life. Of like, I could put this on a floppy disk.
And
it
World of Hard
also,
is it roguelike? What's the I've heard
Right,
it described weird
it's-
ways.
I mean, I don't know if it's just that I'm missing something or if I don't actually understand what the roguelite part of it is, other than the fact that when you run into like monsters in this game, sometimes you don't know. Like sometimes hitting them with the baseball bat you happened to pick up earlier in your run isn't the thing that's gonna kill them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's like that. It's almost
Wait, but
kind
it
of
is run based or no?
yeah, kind of like.
Yeah,
But
it's
they're
like
also
basically a new eldritch mystery every single time
Yeah,
you start a
I see.
game.
Okay, well that's
so
So-
like you have
probably part
your
of-
if you like go you have your like house, and in one of the rooms you have like one of those like red string situations, and
I love them.
Connecting-
They're so good. My favorite post rock band.
The red string situation.
Yeah.
well,
Relate
yeah,
to the
one of
red
those like
jumpsuit apparatus.
there's like a bunch of different seemingly disparate mysteries happening in the town, and so you can go investigate each one of them. But each time you do that, even if it's like the same core mystery, different encounters might happen whenever you do another run, and different horrific entities that show up will have different solutions. Some of them you are just kind of bashing with whatever weapon you happen to find. Some of them require a weird specific what's it called sequence of bows and claps to like pray them away. And
That's really cool.
Yeah.
the part of it too is that it's all what am I trying to say? It's basically it sets itself up as if it's a like late 80s early 90s like computer game in all of its UI decisions, but also the UI will deteriorate in different ways as you get like deeper into the game. It's like the point being that if you're the one playing it, it's like the game is leaking out into quote unquote real space, which is interesting too, because there's like a funny setting in the game, because it like wants to be pixel perfect, but usually your resolution on your screen is going to be much bigger than what those actual pixels are. So it gives you a frame, and there's also an option to zoom out all the way and make it actually pixel perfect.
Oh,
And
interesting.
you're sitting in front of like grayscale computer that looks like an old those old Macs.
Oh,
right.
man, yeah.
With like a window in the corner where you can see like a street lamp. But so it's just
That's neat.
yeah,
That is
it's
really
really
cool.
it's got a lot of style, and it's
Yeah, it's a real labor of love from this one developer.
yeah,
And
apparently it's been going on for how long
for
now?
at least 3 years.
Yeah.
It's
Damn.
just been him, and he's finally gotten like a lot of attention, I feel like, from like a mainstream press,
Yeah.
and he's been able to show it at conferences and stuff. So he's more recently been able to do a lot more polished work on it, but this is something that he's been, really been trying. Like it was really just sort of like a weird experiment, and it took off and like hit. He's like a nice guy from Poland, basically. like an art student from Poland,
Hell
as far
yeah.
as I can tell, and he's just made this work over a period of years. When I started playing, it was a much smaller, more contained thing. It was more clearly an experiment,
Right.
and also much more. It gave you the sort of the numbers on the how these dice rolls worked more visibly. It seems like from the way you're describing it, a lot of things are a lot more obscured now.
Yeah,
like you
totally.
have to go in there and figure out everything for
Interesting.
yourself.
Yeah, so far it's been that's how the runs kind of come up, is that like each time you like go back in, you might learn something new about a certain encounter. But you're
Interesting.
not necessarily going to be able to beat it the first time round, especially if
Yeah,
you've never run into it before at all.
yeah. The last build I played did definitely emphasize the sort of like repetitive nature of like there's so many things happening in this town that it's going to take more than one person exploring these things to figure out the full mystery, and you might be able to solve a case without learning half of the things that happen in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally cool. I'm excited. That is like on my list of things to check out. I'm debating whether or not I want to wait until it's out of early
Until it's
access.
like apparently at this point it seems like he's described it as essentially feature complete, and what's being added is more mysteries. So it's more about breadth
Right,
at this point.
sure.
But like the game's structure is in if you're
that's
interested
cool.
in checking it out.
That's cool.
As far as like a one-person project goes, the writing in this game I think is also really good.
Yeah.
Like it's just taking everything from all your favorite horror
Right,
movies,
right.
like a horror movie, like a specific brand of horror movie, the kind that just like gets under your skin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love its style. It looks really great.
it looks really cool.
Rob, there's another game. There's another two games you mentioned. The second one is funny. We were talking about Newgrounds before. Whenever I see the second game, what's it called? Circle Empires. I always think, this comparison is not the pejorative that it might sound like. It always makes me think of Newgrounds, like strategy games that I played 15 years ago, but instead of being a thing I play for free and then move on with my life, and the developer drifts out of consciousness and doesn't get paid for their work, it seems like it has like a somewhat, maybe a cult following, but still like it's found an audience. I think there's a sequel coming soon. Tell me about Circle Empires.
Yes, Circle Empires is a really stripped down RTS. Like, it is trying to get the appeal and the fun and the experience of playing an RTS down to like really basic elements. And it's called Circle Empires because basically it takes place in this world where your starting location is a little disc of land, a mountaintop, and it has 4 paths off of it to other circles, and the entire map is laid out this way in sort of a it almost looks like a twister mat in some ways, right? Like it's got that sort of grid of circles, and each one of these circles has resources on it. So like once you expand onto another circle, you get more resources. You can they keep producing new resources, but at a certain rate. So you definitely you can, I think, over extract from from a circle. Hence, you need to spread out so that you continue to your rate continues to expand and allow you to field larger armies. And the map as a whole, some of these circles are populated by enemies that are like you, like basically other players. They're controlled by AI right now. There's a multiplayer version of this coming, currently in beta. And then there are some that are just controlled by kind of disposable mobs that you just need to build a large enough army to go crush and take the resources. And then there are like legendary monsters on the map, which are controlling circles, and it takes like a huge effort to go bring those guys down. The other catch is once you decide to initiate combat, like once you go across the little drawbridge from one circle to the next, all the towers on the 2 connecting circles open fire at each other. So your defenses that you build for turtling still play a role in offensive attacks.
Yeah.
And where it starts to get really nifty is that you got some, you have your standard like RTS fantasy armies, right? Little sword dudes, little archers, knights, etc. That, you know, more advanced troops require more of the gold resource and less of just the food and the wood resource. But where it gets really cool is that you can always kind of see what's adjacent to your circles. You know, there's not really like, there's sort of a very crude fog of war. Like you can see what's next to you, but not what is beyond that. And so you can see like buildups happening on your border really, really clearly. So can the enemy. And so there can be really cool situations where it's like, I've been preparing to attack this circle of theirs because there's like a gold resource on it that I really, really want. But while I was building up to do that, the AI just moved their entire army to a place where I'd left my defenses really soft because there's nothing there. And now it's like, do I forge ahead with my attack and just trade space with them? Or do I try and like rush my army back across all my little circles to this vulnerable location? And so it gets at a lot of like the essential dilemmas of a base building RTS about like when to expand, where to expand, how to like boom your economy, how to turtle up. It gets at all of that, but in this really sparse form where there's not a lot of micromanagement to it. There's not a lot of detailed like consideration of unit stats that you need to be worrying about. It's very much kind of like what you see is what you get. Right. And it's more about making these broader decisions that determines whether or not you're going to win. And it really does work, right? Like it, you know, I was talking to Cam the other day and the thing it reminded me a lot of is like Warcraft 2. It reminds me a lot of RTS games back when they were newer, but also like necessarily cruder. Sure. And in some ways, there was like there was a style to that. There was an appeal.
Mm-hmm. There's a degree to which we might think of those things as elemental, when in fact they're elemental now because they are the things that put the standards in place. But when I look at this game, that is still like how it feels, where it's like, oh yeah, like here is a melee unit, here is a ranged unit, here is a choke point, like here is a way in which I'm trying to build my economy in certain ways. Very focused. I talked about Granblue versus being very similar in the sense of like, hey, here are special moves. Here is what a combo looks like. Here's like very fundamental stuff. Here's an entry point to think about the abstract concerns of a genre without necessarily falling into the kind of layer after layer of differentiation. It's such an interesting thing that I think we've seen a lot of genre, like kind of niche genre games recently, in the sense that like, hey, the mass market does not have space for 30 different RTSs right now that are going to hit the numbers that Warcraft 2 or StarCraft did, right? Or even the Command and Conquer games, or even the Total Annihilation games. You know, there was an era where like there were a billion RTS games, and there are not enough people who like those games anymore to support that many. And I wonder how much that's part of why we see the sort of what I think colloquially we often call like the minimalist take on subgenre. You know, interesting though.
Well, and I think the minimalist take was always sort of underexplored. Right.
Sure.
Like a game I will always bring up at the drop of a dime is like Kohan, which was an RTS where you didn't even control individual units. You just connected units to hero units, and that set things like formations and rules of engagement. Mm-hmm. And it was, again, very much like what you were managing at any time was like 4 cities and like 5 armies. That's not very much. It's just making the correct decision. It's not making lots of decisions. Mm-hmm. And that was always generally rejected, I feel like, by your mainstream RTS audience.
But that era was the era of maximalism, right? It wasn't like across games. I don't just mean in RTSs. I just mean like when I was at Walmart looking at the back of big PC game boxes, it was like, this one has more shit in it. Look, there's 120 different units in this one. There are 30 different.
I remember,
you know.
I remember like my friends and I having really heated debates about like what was the RTS du jour, and those of us who were in the total annihilation camp were very much like, are you kidding me? Your game has a unit population cap of like 100 per side. Look at total annihilation. Look at this bounty of mechs and robots.
There are so many. God.
Yeah. So it's just naturally a better game. And I think, time has... Well, first of all, Subcom was still good. Like, the maximalism gave us some good things. But, I think in general, RTSs maybe kind of kept pushing in a direction that left a lot of people behind, because it turns out they didn't want a much more complicated or fussy red alert. Right. They just wanted to watch the big tanks with the two guns shoot at each other.
Right, which is a joy. Like I mean, that was part of the thing about Maximal. I think part of the thing that was so interesting about that era was you could take a game like Total Annihilation, and I have not played Total Annihilation in 20 years. Like, when did it come out? Like, I played a lot of it the year it came out, and I've never touched it since. So let me pause on any sort of critical take about the game's design or something like that. But so much of its appeal was, like with Supreme Commander, yo, look at all this shit that's moving around on my screen. Look at how big this is. It's like the Dynasty Warriors 2, like, wow factor. And yet at the same time, when you talk to people in those spaces, in the RTS space, there was a sort of reserved and refined quality to the discourse. Do you know what I mean? I mean, not refined in an actual sense, but there was a playing at being cultured. There was a, like, unlike these plebes, I am a strategist. I'm not performing headshots. I'm commanding an army. I'm playing 4D chess over here while you were mastering the rocket jump, right? And yet the appeal was very sensuous. The appeal was, yo, I got 200 mechs. Yo, I'm coming for your ass. And that is...
Attack, click.
Yeah, attack, click, go. So, yeah, I think that was always an interesting element of that thing. And I kind of don't mind. I wouldn't have... In retrospect, I mind it less if we're honest about the fact that when I look at Supreme Commander video, I could just be like, yo, look at all those orange squares moving around really fast, Yeah. There's a lot of them. Do you have anything else to say here about... There is a sequel coming, right? Or a something. Circle Empires Rivals?
Like, Rivals. It's the multiplayer version.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's the other interesting thing here is you now described two strategy games, Circle Empires and Death Crown. That are both single-player RTSs, right?
Yeah.
Hey, it turns out when you're not trying to make the next big multiplayer hit, the genre can do different things.
Yeah.
When you're designing asymmetrically, like truly asymmetrically, not just hey, you have different units and maybe some unique abilities, but like when the core concept of interaction is distinct, you have kind of a broader palette. And when you don't have to balance things as much,
right?
You can just make fun games. Let's make fun games.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Death Crown, that sounds nice.
Oh, I love crowns and I love death.
Yeah, totally.
I crave both.
Please. And that's why you should vote for me for Death God, for King of Death. God, King of Death.
Can I just say real quick also?
Yeah.
I got into Corruption 2029 and got out of Corruption 2029
wow.
at a rapid pace.
What was it that got you into it? And again, you never played Mutant Year Zero.
Mutant Year Zero, guys. Hey!
Oh, did you play Mutant? Did you end up playing Mutant?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was like, cool. I am here for whatever they do next.
Yeah.
And it was like, what if exactly that? But way less interesting.
Yeah.
And with way less variety too. It felt, I don't know. It felt like everything had been reskinned like sci-fi and military.
Yes.
But for some reason that reskinning really hit hard. Like suddenly I was way less compelled by like And now I was frustrated by the fact all my sniper rifles were single shot. Whereas before I was like, oh, my little duck guy, you know, he
Found
doesn't
this fucking-
have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, this
he's
motherfucker.
got, he's got a blowgun.
Yeah,
He's a duck.
He's
with
trying
a
his
blowgun.
best. You know what it feels like
Yeah.
to me? You ever look at like concept art on ArtStation? Mm-hmm. You ever hit that bit where you're like looking at a bunch of really dope stuff that has like a lot of character and feels really unique, and then you see the artist got a job, because then it immediately becomes kind of gray and dismal, and all the character gets sanded away because it's client work instead of personal work, and the personal work has this like verve and vigor and like the genuinely slap you in the face, wake up art can be anything, even if it's just art about dudes with guns. Like, yo, what if that gun had a statue on it? Damn, okay, let's go.
Right.
Wild. Versus then they get in and it's very clear someone says like, ma'am, can you remove the statue from the gun? We just want the gun.
Just the gun,
Please
please?
remove. I understand you're trying to do something here with Empire, whatever. Please, just the gun. And that is the vibe, and it sucks. Yeah, so that is totally how Corruption 2029 feels to me.
It's very funny because
And it doesn't seem to have any arc.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
So I played the first third. I was
Did
like,
you finish
okay.
that whole first set of missions?
Yes.
Okay, I was on the last one. Is where I dropped.
Yes, I was like, okay, if there's going to be a turn,
This is it.
there's
Right.
going to be a turn
Right.
around here.
Yeah.
And the campaign wraps, there's no turn, and then they're like, we have to go after that evil scientist who created the unprecedented weapon, a nuclear missile. And I'm like, do I? I don't think I'd like. The game hints at, oh, there's something going on that you don't know.
Yeah.
But it can't follow through on any of its theme. It can't follow through on anything. Like, the opening is like, your soldiers have been stripped of their humanity and turned into automatons that like serve your will, the will of these distant commanders. And it's like, no, they don't. They talk like normal dudes in games. Like they sound just fine to me. They sound like video game characters.
Is that a condemnation of video game characters?
Well,
I
mean,
know. I'm pulling at your leg a little bit here.
yeah, I know, but it's like I think the game
1%?
wants to do that. I think the game wants to sort of wink at
Yeah.
that, except then it just embraces it wholeheartedly. It like lampshades the generic quality of its character by being like, yeah, they call themselves units, you know, like video game units. And then they're like, but no, seriously, they're units. And this is a very serious, like near future tactical game that you're playing.
In which the polarization of
nothing
America
happens.
has gone too far. Right,
The
like that is
second
yeah.
Civil War.
that is the like it is a second Civil War game where it is very clear early on that they're coding like, here's the conservative side and here's the progressive side, or is it really? Or
What's
horseshoe theory? Have you
Or-
heard those
wait,
words?
horseshoe?
Like, if this doesn't
theory.
sum it up,
I thought it was fish hook.
There's that mission.
No.
Did you guys talk about the mission where you kill that cop?
No. You can.
All right. So there's a mission where it's like, you have to kill this. This guy was a sheriff before the Civil War, but now he's turned into like a regional warlord. But, you know, he was a corrupt sheriff even before then, so he was ready to go. He was just waiting for the turn to fascism. And it's like, cool. All right. Like, yeah, I'm going to kill this, you know, I'm going to kill this small town dictator, this corrupt lawman. Sure, that sounds good. Sign me up. And then the first thing, as you approach the police station where this dude is holed up, you come across these old squad cars with dead cops like all around them. And the lady in your ear immediately says, these brave officers gave their lives, showing that they would not go along with what the sheriff was doing. And I'm like, not all cops.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's if there's one thing we have seen, it's that when police officers express solidarity, it is definitely on the side of people. That is
how
when
it's
cops
been.
show up and unite.
God. Yeah, I very much, you know, it definitely felt like a thing where we're like, what's a hot topic issue? What can we pull on here?
Right.
And what it seemed like was, you know, American polarization.
Bring back my depressed duck.
Bring back my depressed duck.
That duck's got depression and a blowgun, and I am I will protect him at all costs.
I'm sorry. I actually pulled up the ending of this game, and I'm not going to talk about it. But there is a character who says like, "Don't you watch sci-fi movies?" Which is very on the nose. Anyway, I'm still excited for Mutant Year Zero 2 or whatever the name of that
Mutant
sequel.
Year 1.
Thank you.
But are you as excited?
Yeah. Bring back the duck. Bring back my depressed duck, and we'll talk. His name was Duck, by the way.
What about
Oh, that's
really?
nice.
I think so, wasn't it?
Huh. I don't know. I never played
Ducks.
that game.
It was Ducks.
DUX.
You're right. It was
Ducks.
Ducks. Yeah. You should play that game. That game is good.
I was having fun with corruption. It was like, I like the mechanics here.
Mechanics are fun.
Even if the story and setting are pretty bland.
Yeah.
So I think I'll just go play that instead because
Fair.
Ducks.
Ducks.
Tactical Muppets.
That's
That's
nice.
right. Gita, you got anything going on you want to shout out here?
I've been playing Fire Emblem Secret Fourth
Oh,
House.
hell yeah. It is the strategy corner. We're in it.
Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, I actually have two things I want to
Ashen
talk about.
Wolves?
Ashen Wolves, number one.
Yeah.
I talked about this with Cado recently. Is so the way that the naming convention for the house is golden deer. That's a color
That's a color,
specifically.
yeah.
Blue lines. That is a color.
Yeah.
The black eagles.
eagles.
Also a color.
Not the color they wear, which is kind of like...
That's weird.
Yeah.
But it is a color.
Yeah.
Specifically, these are colors, not descriptions of what colors could be like or adjectives that you could apply to
I
colors.
see what you're saying.
Ashen Wolves, their color is gray. They wear gray uniforms. Why do you think they're not called the Gray Wolves?
Fuck off. That's very funny. Do you think
Does
that
Nintendo
was...
not want to be conflated with Erdogan in any way?
I feel like that's... Yeah, it's very funny. And fucked up.
Yeah, I legitimately want to know.
What is it? What are they called in Japan? Are
I
they
haven't
called...
seen. I haven't looked into this, unfortunately. But if anyone knows, Tim Rogers, if you're listening to this, unlikely that you are, but if you could send me like 1,000 words on the name, why they translated this way, I feel like you've got the time. Thank you. It's good. It's good, but I think Rod.
Gita.
Yes.
When did Chapo abandon Grey Wolves?
Sometime within the first year, because I feel like they realized
Okay.
it was problematic at a level that they did not want to have to defend.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Erdogan spiked it for everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
That motherfucker.
God damn international fascism.
I know.
Really
Ruining
not
everything
chill.
for us.
Much like the other three classes, the Japanese pronunciation of Ashen Wolves takes their names from German.
Really?
The Ashen Wolves are roughly called Wolf class,
Wolf
which
class.
means wolf class.
So it just means wolf class.
Yeah.
So they had to add a color for us.
Where are
and
you
it
reading
couldn't
that?
be
Wait,
gray.
be gray.
Wait, where
Yeah.
are you reading that? Because I am seeing something that says they're just called... Oh, I see it now. Yeah, you're right.
Wolf class.
Wolf class.
Yeah, that whips.
Wolf. Yeah, that does whip. Wait, what are the other ones called? Is it deer class?
Probably,
Eagle class
right?
and...
Oh, fuck.
I think it just sounds more like Western prep schools when they add a color.
Right, sure.
You know?
That makes sense.
But Rob, we talked about this on 3 Moves Ahead. The sort of disconnect between Three Houses' strategy stuff, which is like, okay, sometimes really good, but sometimes not that good at all. Sometimes you really feel the random number generation in a way that feels cheap and unsatisfying. And the plot stuff, the writing in Three Houses, which is really good. And this is absolutely the most those two things have been divided. So this,
Fuck.
yeah, it's
That's a shame because I would have thought having because it's not that long is my understanding.
no, but they want to make.
Why didn't they just put the good levels in it? They have so much control over what
They
you
have so many good ideas for levels, but they want to make it really hard. And the version of really hard that Fire Emblem does, even on normal, is throw more guys,
throw
at,
more
you
guys at you.
and introduce time limits. So I'm stuck on this level right now where there's two sort of those big monster guys and they're deliberately made to be so powerful that you can't fight them. If you lose any unit, even in casual, you lose the level. And you have to get to a certain place by certain time limits. And it's becoming not fun hard. It's becoming more of like, how can I cheese this to do the thing that I want, the game wants me to do? Because otherwise, I'm just going to be stuck here.
Yeah.
And like the problem, additionally, if I had my leveled up guys.
That's what I say. You just pull. This is all standalone
This
stuff.
is all
where you just
standalone.
have-
And yeah, they start at level 20. Some of my characters are level 30 now, which is
Sure.
great. But I don't have all of my gear.
Yeah.
I don't have.
Lysithea isn't here to just like
Just murk
bop
'em.
some motherfuckers.
Yeah. I want to finish it because the new classes are really interesting, especially.
Ooh, what are the new classes?
Okay.
I missed that there were new classes.
So there is a dark rider who is a flying dark magic class.
Rider.
Rider.
I thought Rider also.
Not a
I was,
dark
I was
scribe.
like,
we both
oh.
we just showed our whole ass, Rob, both of us. We were like, this is the person I am. Let
yes.
the world know.
The red podcasters logged on. Yeah, there's a dark rider. They really very powerful glass cannon, but being able to fly in and out of areas gives you more utility with that kind of character.
Right.
There is a Valkyrie, which is another magic user on a horse. Again, dark magic. Not as powerful as the Dark Knight, but has some is very, very useful against other mounted units. And there's a Trickster, which is one of my favorite unit. I think it's the one class that I want the most, which is a unit who is a good healer, but also natively a good sword user.
Right.
Which you can give a lot of healing units weapons, but they're not very good at them. This one, the healer, he's also, it's Yuri, the Bishonen guy.
Yes.
He's also just like, he'll fuck someone up with the sword. It's great.
Love it.
And then the last one, it just makes punching things with your fists, it just makes it like useful, basically.
Oh, no way. Really? You didn't think that was that useful in the main game?
I never used those characters
Raphael
that much.
fucking
Yeah.
whipped for me, man.
I made him a Fortress Knight.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Hilda was my Fortress Knight.
Yeah,
With Hilda and
I had her.
We've got to do. These motherfuckers don't know what javelins of light are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, come on.
Anyway, it's fine.
I just-
We'll,
We have to explain.
we have to show it to them when it's time. We have to finish this so that we can do
Okay.
a spoiler cast.
Yeah, it's like I really want to know a bit more about the story also, which is why it's so frustrating that the fights aren't as good. It's reminding me a little bit of the level design from what was the harder version of the mediocre modern era game that we don't talk about.
Wait, the what?
You know the
game?
one that had the Eastern Fantasy and the Western
that one
Fantasy.
was Fates is the name of the
Fates,
big one.
yeah,
and then-
where it's just like incesty in a way that's very deeply uncomfortable.
yeah, Fire Emblem
They had the
Fates.
petting game.
Yeah. The
There's
petting
something
game
wrong
wasn't that
with.
bad.
There's something wrong.
But it was just that it's
That's right.
mostly.
It's fucking solidarity on
No, the petting wasn't
That is
bad.
not the
It's
problem.
just that they're all related
Conquest.
to you.
Conquest
Yes.
is the.
I was just saying that's what people remember. I feel like.
Yeah, true.
Was the petting game not in the previous one? I guess not.
No.
No, the petting game and then the children from the future in a very tacked on way that doesn't make any sense plot wise.
Oh, right, because that's not a time travel game.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I guess, maybe it was. I didn't get that far into it.
It doesn't matter.
Wait,
really.
did the
It's not
awakening thing
very good.
again? But
Yeah,
Yeah, but
because they
without
thought that
the
that was
same-
the thing that people really liked from Awakening.
Uh-huh.
But what people liked from Awakening is like the relationships were well written and
And
they
the characters
mattered.
were dope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and the characters
Totally.
were nice. They didn't.
Totally.
Children from the Future was like a fun bonus.
yeah,
It feels a lot like the artificial hardness in Fates that made Fates so unfun to play,
Yes.
where it's just like more guys, just
Send
more
more,
guys,
yeah.
just sending more guys, and I can get through these fights through brute force, but nothing gives me the other strategy game I'm playing right now. Is I started up playing Stellaris,
Hell yeah.
again, and like that one is that's a game
We will
where
have a lot to talk about with Stellaris shortly, in a few months or a few weeks.
each new turn presents a new series of problems that I just get like ASMR brain trying to resolve. In this, it feels like each new turn I get closer to flushing my Switch down a toilet.
don't do that.
Don't do that.
I'm not
Do
gonna
Not
do
in
that.
March.
Animal
I've got-
Crossing is soon.
Yeah, it's
Very
soon.
specific reasons not to do that, but like it's frustrating that mechanics wise, Fire Emblem hasn't figured out how to make things more challenging or more tangled and not just more populous.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Gita, I'm curious. Like, do you think that's in that design at this point? Like, when I was playing the core game, I was like, to me, this feels like it would be a good tactics game. They just didn't design enemies and encounters to like show off that tactics game. But now they had a year to sort of ruminate on that and think about. They've had a great deal of time to sort of create new combat scenarios
Yeah.
and sort of reimagine what combat looks like in this game. Do you think a good tactics game is under the surface here? Do you think it lives within this Fire Emblem, or do you think this is it?
I think that if they think more about class harmony as opposed to like synergy from reclassing a particular character, that then we will understand that there is a way to use individual classes in concert with each other to create like a broader, like more impactful fight against the other units on the screen.
Right.
I think the biggest problem with Fire Emblem is that each individual unit does not actually work in harmony with other enemies.
Well, they can be any unit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is part of like the double bind of leaning towards customization compared to past entries in the series. Specifically, like really past entries. Like when I started playing Fire Emblem, it was the first one that came to the States, which I forget what the Japanese name of the game was the one that came to the GBA as just Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
Like that is not a game about customizing characters. That is not a game about. I mean, you have characters who can class up and take on different like secondary class or prestige class type things. But you're not like doing the thing of like, how do I want to build this character out? And that is 100% where the game has gone, which meant that at the time, which is kind of what I'd hoped was going to be true for this DLC, was like at the time, they had a pretty good idea of what you could have available to you at every level and could build really tight, complex like strategy puzzles for you. That first Fire Emblem that I played felt like, it's not the first Fire Emblem, to be clear, it's the first one that came out in the States, felt very puzzly to me. It felt very much like, how do I achieve a solution state? Now, it might be different depending on who I bring into a battle, or maybe if I have more range units, or more importantly, it might require me to bring in certain configurations of what my team looked like. But like that was definitely a much different game and a tenser game. I think they've dialed that intensity down and that tension down with it, not only through the particular things like the separating out like normal and hardcore mode and stuff like that, but just in terms of just, hey, my Hilda is going to be a fortress knight. Your Hilda is going to be I
don't know. She was she was a Wyvern Rider.
A Wyvern Rider, exactly.
She ripped at that.
Totally.
Yeah.
But like, okay, well then also you have to then build levels designed to just be tackled by your grab bag of whatever you got with you.
Yeah.
You could beat Fire Emblem Three Houses with a crew full of mages, like 100%.
Yeah.
You could figure it out. You know what I
brute
mean?
force it.
I mean, the thing is, this is a game you could probably beat with just Byleth also, because that's the other thing the game has done is it's increasingly built towards hero characters in a way that like your main character was never a thing before. There was clearly a protagonist inside of the story that was being told, and those units were always really fucking good, but the move towards Since Awakening, you're a character on the battlefield and also you're dope as shit has actually fucked with the difficulty in such a way that you end up almost always having some sort of really powerful ability. I'm not even talking about like Divine Pulse in Three Houses. I'm just talking about raw,
you could turn into a dragon in Fates.
You could turn into a dragon in Fates. This is true. And so
I feel like there is a way to think about the combat in this game in terms of like, okay, but there's a finite number of classes.
Yeah.
And you can nudge players towards certain builds of teams in a way
which
that
is
the
what
game...
it does do. There are soft pushes and pressures and limits.
Those pushes could be harder though. You know, I feel like the game needs to make a more decisive stand on being like a good strategy game if it wants to be a good strategy game.
But also, how much more would I like that game if... How much more versus less how would I feel about that game if Ignatz couldn't have been this weird multi-class character for me, who I took down like the assassin path and also the dark mage path and blended those. They're both cool and like let that boy cook. Like let him learn whatever he wants to learn. He's trying to understand his place in the world, and so that ended up adding sort of attachment value to me with those characters. Even though I think the world in which he's just an archer is probably a better balanced, more interesting tactics game because they've built levels around knowing I have an archer in my party and that it's this character who has this like percentage of stat growth and likely isn't within this realm of blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But this is why I thought this DLC would give me a taste of that old Fire Emblem because they would know that shit.
Nah.
Oh well.
No, I mean they even give you like a specific like a set of cast of characters who are classed in specific ways when you get to the level, but it really doesn't take advantage of the sort of closed like set that it has. It just does more guys at you, and it becomes incredibly boring. Like I was having a lot of fun up until this particular fight that I got to, where you have to you've got these the javelins of light. homies.
Yeah.
The guys, the big robots, and they are too powerful to fight, so you just have to run from them. And then there's bandits, red enemies and yellow enemies. So there's 2 rounds of enemies, and you have to just, you have to also get to an end point by 10 turns.
Okay.
And so I've done this now. Used the Divine Pulse up until, I exhausted it, got game over now 3 times, and I've only made it to the first sort of checkpoint in that you get here before 10 turns, because after that checkpoint, more enemies arrive. Like a ton more. And it's like, I've used all my vulneraries. I have exhausted, I don't have any moves less than the Sword of the Creator. I can't do anything. I just have to run. I just have to run really quickly and hope no one dies, because if any one character dies, it's game over. It just feels like I've never liked this game, when you get there. And that's where you just see, this is the ultimate limitation of this version of Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
And if they want this to not be anything more than baby's first tactics game, then they have to rethink the level of customization here.
What if they don't want it? What if they don't want? Maybe it's fine for that. Maybe long term, does that lose you? Is my question.
Long term,
so I think it loses Rob.
I mean, yeah, Rob's out. I absolutely.
But what if the characters continue to be dope?
The characters continue to be dope. I'll put up with a lot, but it needs to be an easy game.
At that point.
That point, it needs to just be an easy game. It needs to be what Pokemon
and
is.
faster. Those battles cannot take that long.
And the game can't be 70 hours.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right?
When I think about it in terms of how I feel like everyone really should think about Pokemon, which I know this is a controversial statement, but Pokemon is designed to be baby's first Japanese RPG.
Yeah.
It is designed to be that way, which is why it's silly and the mechanics are not very deep. And it's
You're gonna get fucking letters.
I know.
Yeah.
All them hardcore players who are gonna. I mean, the thing.
Pokemon gets deep if you look into it, but
Yes.
there's that one really good video of this anime black that's on YouTube where it's the fight. He's representing the 2 halves of the Pokemon fandom, and he's one guy's they took out the national dex, and you gotta catch them all, and the other guy's the other version of himself is to be honest, I was gonna catch 20 of them shits and then call it a day.
Yep.
You
I mean,
know?
that is the truth for me 100%.
I feel like most people, other than the hardcore Pokemon stans, they do approach Pokemon that way because it's designed to be your child's first Japanese RPG.
The actual thing there that I think you're actually kind of hitting at is Fire Emblem doesn't do what Pokemon does, which is that
it hasn't leaned into that idea.
well, it hasn't been able to split the difference, because someone who wants to take Pokemon super seriously and stay up on the meta and play online and play competitively, that game exists for them.
Yeah.
They can go beyond. If I bought Pokemon or if I picked up my Switch and started playing Pokemon and played through the story mode, I would never be challenged in a way that made me think extremely hard about the deep underlying mechanics of Pokemon and the ways that different abilities interact and the timing of certain things and EV values, shit like that. I think EV values is repetitive. V is values,
V is
right?
values.
EVs and IVs and all that shit. But if you are that person, and in that way, it is totally, hey, if you have a 10-year-old who wants to play a JRPG for the first time, perfect game.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you are 22 and are looking for a hardcore competitive JRPG, which is not a genre that exists very much.
Sword and Shield made a huge effort in the post game to cater to you.
Exactly. And in general, that game it has can fulfill that need, whereas Fire Emblem doesn't have anything that actually creates that style of deep tactical play.
Yeah.
I still fundamentally think that it's a game that pleases me deeply. I liked, and I think part of this ends up being about builds and about where I spent my time and stuff like that. But by that end game, when I talked about Lysithea before, I think that some of the tricks I was playing with teleportation magic and stuff like that felt really good, even if I could have just brute forced my way through a lot of those fights by the end.
Yeah.
It was how do I maximize my effort here? So I still felt that that scratch, that oh wow, yeah, nice. But it is a completely different thing than thinking about what I got from those earlier Fire Emblem games, which was, how do I solve this tactical puzzle? I always feel like I'm a step behind. I'm trying to keep up with the game. And it doesn't do that at all. It doesn't have that degree of that style of competitive Pokemon.
You're absolutely right about the class
depth.
thing, because I was just thinking, the only way I could think of doing this is if they had these side missions like the ones they already have in the game, but you're required to bring certain classes to them.
Yeah.
And then at that point I was like, well, why didn't they do that for this DLC? And I was missed opportunity. opportunity especially because these characters are just like Hot Topic goths, and it's great.
Yeah.
Constance, the Catherine, the one with the little drill hair.
Oh, sure.
So her whole thing is that she's incredibly haughty and talks like a fedora wearing edgelord.
Wow.
Like she just says all the longest versions of the words that you could say. Like she's got a thesaurus like downloaded into her brain.
It's very good.
And she's like that in the underworld. There's a secret house. There's a secret society literally underneath Garreg Mach where the underclass lives. Like all the people that have been, couldn't survive because they've done so many crimes or whatever. One of the characters,
So, like, what if the Breakfast Club radicalized?
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the big brawler character who doesn't wear a shirt is literally like, I got into too many fights and now I have to live here because if I step one foot outside, people would want to kill me. It's rad. So Catherine's whole thing though is that in the shadows, she's incredibly haughty and confident. But as soon as she goes into sunlight, she becomes incredibly meek. And it's the cutest thing in the whole world.
That's very funny.
I
Yeah.
just
With
wanna
great
spend time with
characters
her.
again.
Yeah.
And yet, oh wow.
And yet, yeah, I want the classes though, because I can see in my regular playthroughs, which I'm gonna start an Edelgard run. I think I started my Black Eagles run with Gyleth, and I was like, and now that I've been away from the game for so long, I'm like, I don't want to be Gyleth.
No, don't be guileless.
I want to be gay with Edelgard.
You know what? You deserve it.
I
I'm
do
gonna
deserve
say
it.
You
Thank
deserve
you.
it. You know?
Yeah. And other than that, I mean, Stellaris is like the opposite of that. I'm not playing
yeah.
with really any expansions, just the updates.
Base, where it's at right now.
But just
which
where
is
it's
still
at right
which
now
is still a
is-
better place than it was for a long time.
God, they finally figured out the middle and end game in ways that make sense to me, where I know exactly what I have to do now in those phases. I haven't played since like the time where you hit the mid game and you're like, okay, we're gonna spend like 4 to 5 hours just waiting for resources
Just like
to build up.
hitting the fast forward button and
Yep.
just waiting, just like
Just to make a sandwich, man.
Yeah,
Like,
totally,
yeah.
totally.
Now you got stuff to keep track of. I hit the middle section and I had a vassal, and I was decided because I was losing space to other people. I had to add them into my society,
Yep, but
and then I
hey,
had a whole bunch of factions start up.
and that costs influence, and that
Yep.
costs time, and like
I was
everything
set
else.
back economically
Yep.
for some
But
time.
you get that space, and you can
Yeah.
actually start ordering their shit around and actually
Yep.
improving what
I had
their
a bigger
economy
military,
is.
which meant I was able to defend their space better. And I was playing as fascists. I was like, the only way that I ever play this game is by being nice to everyone.
For once, you're going to be terrible.
I'm going to be terrible. And they're not even that bad. They just threaten a lot of people. They haven't actually gone to war yet. They're just really, really powerful and like are very economically powerful and have stockpiled a lot of money and like a huge army. And it's fun, but like the slug people who I vassalized and then made part of my empire.
I didn't go to war with anyone.
Wait, but
But
They literally, I was just building a good trade relationship with them, but they
and
asked to be my
eventually-
vassal because
You got Hawaii,
everyone
Space
else
Hawaii
on
out
all
here.
sides was trying to take over their territory, and I was militarily strong
I
while they
see.
were weak.
And they're like, yo, help, please.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, sure, I want that shit. Give me your shit. And like it rocked for a minute once I got my economy back up. But yeah, like because they have joined now, they're not full citizens. Because again, I'm playing as terribly. They don't have full rights, but they have most of the rights. They have most rights, but not all
never
of
mind.
them.
It's Puerto Rico, not Hawaii. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. It is Puerto Rico and Hawaii. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. But they do influence the factions. And so the Drumbeat of Victory faction was the strongest faction
Which is
for a
your
long time.
militarism faction.
Yeah, they were loving it. They
I
were
bet.
loving
You
everything
got
I
a
was
huge
doing.
fleet.
Yeah, I had a huge fleet.
got
Wasn't
a
even
vassal.
getting into wars, but was leaving the option for war open.
Open. You go
at all
whenever you
times.
want. Yeah.
I had rivals and stuff. As soon as my slug friends joined my society proper, the Alien Friendship Society shot to the top of the list.
I bet.
Yeah.
So, like all these new aliens showed up, and they're like, "Hey, you know, what'd be real cool would be if we were friends to aliens."
We were nice. It was a planet, it was a society full of little Gitas.
Yeah,
Just,
100%.
hello, why don't we be nice?
Why don't we be nice this time?
Let's try being nice.
And now you have to try to keep everybody happy.
Yeah, now I have to. Now
is-
it's endgame time now for sure. So
Yeah, we will talk a lot more about Stellaris, I think, in a few weeks because the Federation's update's
I'm
coming.
really excited.
Which is like the promise of that is to add even more in that mid late game stuff and more factionalist, like
Yeah.
not the sort of factions you're talking about, which are like interior factions, but external, like increasing the degree of diplomacy
Yeah.
and the mechanics for that stuff.
Similar movement, like narrative and mechanics wise, as the most recent Dwarf Fortress update, weirdly,
Oh,
which
right.
has added
Interesting.
villains and plots.
Ooh.
So now villains can come to your fortress. I played a little bit of this. I got to the point where now you can also make guild halls for
Ooh,
workers
nice.
can form guilds. I have a farmers guild because there's enough farmers that live in my fortress that they request a space where they can have demonstrations to teach other farmers different skills or just sort of shoot the shit or whatever. And yeah, now you have to build guild halls for your workers, which I think is a very cool addition. But
Awesome.
the villains and plots thing is also like people can come to your fortress and have their own motivations, like embezzle money from you and stuff like that.
Perfect. Can't wait. Love for that to happen. Love to have a dwarf criminal embezzle money from me. at
Dwarf
my guild
Criminal
hall.
is my favorite stoner metal band.
There you go. Perfect. I think that's going to do it for us, unless there's any other shout outs. Anyone else want to give? No? Okay. I'm going to wrap it up. It's already been a long one. I feel like this is our first 5-star runtime in a minute.
Yeah, actually,
I think
damn.
we haven't had a runtime like this.
Okay, but hold on. So the reason I had to take like 3 hours to finish up that Total War campaign is because it came down. So I was Tao Chan, and it came down between me and Cao Cao,
Okay, I know that one.
and the heirs to Liu Bei.
Sure.
Where's Lulu in
And
all
the
this?
thing
Liu
was, the
must have
mistake
been
I'd made,
dead.
and this was
By now.
this
Cado.
this was
Go
this
ahead.
is the mistake I made. I fought a war with Lady Wu,
Oh.
and
Lady Wu don't
I
play.
was winning that war.
Okay.
I was winning that war,
Uh-huh.
and then she was like, "Hey, not only should we make a peace deal, I will become your vassal."
Oh,
And I was like,
damn.
"Cool, let's do it."
This is the reverse
And that
story.
vassalage lasted for like 10 years while together we went on a tear.
Oh, okay.
But like within my empire, Lady Wu's territories, because she was conquering alongside me, it was like there was a donut and the whole was Lady Wu. And so Cao Cao supported Lady Wu's independence at the very moment
heart of
my
your-
final alliance broke apart
Amazing.
with Shu Han.
Okay.
And so in the course of like, I was cruising to the end game, and in an instant, my largest vassal had gone to war with me. I was at war with Cao Cao, and I was at war with Shu Han and all their allies who I'd been at peace with for like the entire game. And the only way out was to win like a series of multiple army full stack battles. It was grueling and intense, but like it was incredible. And it like consumed my life for a few weeks.
Wow.
It was great.
Well-
but then it wrapped up in that hotel room
And,
in New York.
Wow.
thanks
Via
to
streaming.
NVIDIA.
The shout outs to streaming video games from across the globe.
The future.
It's the future. Congrats. Did you see the newest Romance of the Three Kingdoms just got like an English patch and is on Steam now? And I cannot help but believe that it's because they saw Total War Three Kingdoms doing well. And they're like, fuck it. People want
go.
one of these.
Yeah.
They
I'll
did a
try
really
it.
good addition with Nobunaga's Ambition too.
They did
And-
do that. Yes.
Like that was a good game, but then they didn't do it for the next Romance of the Three Kingdoms after that, and now they're doing it again. So,
Yeah.
but I've heard this one is not good.
I don't know. I haven't followed this one. They are so deep in the parts of the romance. At this point, if I was going to play a Three Kingdoms game, it would be Total War because that's the one I've started to play and haven't put enough time into. I don't want to like start playing a new Romance of the Three Kingdoms from.
I should
It-
ask
if-
Chef Lubu.
If there was, I mean the thing really to me is if I was going to play a new Romance of the Three Kingdoms game at this point, meaning the Koei franchise Romance of the Three Kingdoms, it would need to be more like 7, 8, or 10, which had a version of the game. I've talked about this before, where instead of playing as a ruler, you were playing as an officer who could also have people under you who you commanded, but you didn't have to be like it was differentiated from the kind of Total War style. Civ style, you were the ruler of a kingdom or a civilization. And in 7, 8, and 10, you were allowed to play as. I mean, you could also play as a ruler. But I really loved the fantasy of like being someone's, like top lieutenant or being the like scheming bureaucrat.
Wait, what type of game is the Koei ones?
They're strategy games.
Also,
they're all strategy
yeah.
games, but in 7, 8, and 10, and 10 especially, they took on increasingly like RPG elements. 10 especially, like you could just be a person going on quests in that game, making a name for yourself, which allows you to kind of have the part of the romance of the Three Kingdoms, like mythic fantasy of being one of these like the Guan Yu game would be such a different thing than the Cao Cao game. And traditionally, these games are Cao Cao games. These are games about being a conquering ruler. But in 7, 8, and 10, they were the sort of games where you could be the officer who jumped ship and who was recruited by an enemy, or who recruited an enemy, vassal to your lord's side, or who spent all of your time like building a wall, like just repairing the walls of a town, or stuff like seeking out a legendary horse. And that stuff, for my RPG narrative, mind, really filled in the gap and made that sort of like that time period come alive in a way, because you could see it from the ground level or from the top. And you would often, in my playthroughs, go between those. In some ways, it was more of a Crusader Kings game. Like if that's what it sounds like I'm describing, that is like how it felt, because you also had the sort of like events. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that only existed in the Japanese PC build of Romance of the Three Kingdoms 10. I think maybe there was an expansion on like consoles, but there was like a power-up pack that let you get married and have kids and like have a generational play. And, but even in the version that did come to the States for the PS2, that's a game where, you end up having character events where you're having people over for dinner, and you do your Peach Garden style Oath of Brotherhood, and all of those events happen in that game. If you're listening or like in the Three Kingdoms mindset right now and have a PS2 or some way to play PS2 games, let me recommend Romance of the Three Kingdoms 10 as a really good like way to play from the ground level of that setting instead of playing from the very, very top. But yeah, frankly, just the fact that game, that the new Romance of the Three Kingdoms is out on PC in English, it feels good as a long-term fan of that game, which is like, yes, good. Please, Koei, please remind people that you do more than just the Dynasty Warriors games. Also, I'm mad at the Dynasty Warriors. Did you see the anniversary? One of the part of the anniversary event is the Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
I think you're mad at the actual Dynasty Warriors.
I'm mad at the Dynasty Warriors. The ones. I am mad at Liu Bei. The Dynasty Warriors Legend of Galactic Heroes crossover. Did you see that, Rob?
What?
Oh, that did not make me happy at all.
Me either. I think that they're bad. I think that they're not good. Dynasty Warriors 9, which is for my money my least favorite Dynasty Warriors ever made, which I know for people who are like chuckling about how they're all bad doesn't mean anything, but some of them are good. Many of them are good.
You heard it here first.
You heard it fucking here first, because no one's ever said it out loud before except me. They look terrible. I don't like the characters that they picked for them. I mean, I get why you do Cao Cao as Reinhardt. I get that. But he looks like trash. He looks bad. And then all of the associate characters, like, it's not the right vibe.
They made some bad decisions about like adapting the iconic look of the Dynasty Warriors to the iconic looks of the Legends of Galactic Heroes. They also seem to be more inspired by the Legend of Galactic Heroes remake than OG.
Yeah, which already has blander designs.
And I think the other thing right now, like looking at those characters, is very much like, no, this is like a minor league baseball team decided to do Legend of Galactic Heroes cosplay. Yeah. This is not the Dynasty Warriors. Yes. This is Bull Durham decided to like get into Legend of Galactic Heroes.
Yeah.
Rude.
Yeah. It's not the decisions I would have made, and I'll leave it at that. I'm gonna move on before I say I was gonna go deeper into it. I'm not going to, because no one gives a fuck. No one cares. Anyway, I think that's it. I think we have. We could go forever. I know, but we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you for listening to us. The next time you hear us, it'll be after Super Tuesday. So
everything could have changed by now.
Yeah, we could all be different. I mean, no, they'll hear this before Super Tuesday. Good luck with your Super Tuesday if you're listening. And
have high hopes.
Don't say that again. Don't bring that energy to us.
Suddenly felt so tired.
I'm exhausted, just drained. As always, you can send questions. We got some questions in, but I think we should save them up for a big question bucket podcast.
I'm so excited.
For maybe next week we should do one. That's what I'm going to put that energy out in the air. You can send those into gaming@vice.com. As always, shout outs to Bowen for letting us use the track "Miss You" off the EP Pale Machine. Find out more about that at waypoint.zone/BOEN. Where can people find you on the internet, Gita?
At XOXO Gossip Gita, I am on both Instagram and Twitter. I think are my most
apps. That's where you're the most apt.
That's where the most
That's where you're
apps.
apt up.
That's where. Yeah, that's where I'm apt
Let's
up.
get apt up.
I'm just gonna take a nap. Bye bye.
Tim Cook comes out up on stage at the next Apple keynote.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
We're getting ready to get apt up.
Apt up. Rob Zachney, where are you apt up on the internet? Where do you keep your apps at?
We've made an all-new steel
I keep them on my
enclosure
desktop
for the
where they
apps.
belong.
Sorry, Rob. One more time. Cado is doing a British technologist.
Doing a bad Johnny Ives.
Oh, Johnny Ives. Yeah, okay.
At Rob Zachney on Twitter.
There you go. Cado, how about you? He's doing a hand gesture.
No. I was trying to bring it back.
_Cado_Piers.
Yeah, that one.
For Cado. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. You can follow Waypoint, twitter.com/Waypoint, Waypoint.vice.com.
Or a million.
You can download the Waypoint app.
Oh.
You can't. There's no Waypoint app. Well, you can
What if
go
we
on a
made a
phone.
Waypoint app?
You can go to the website and then do the thing where you like put this on my home screen.
That's the
What's our
Waypoint app.
icon if you do that? What's that look like?
Is it a W or is it the diamond?
I don't know. Find out.
I don't think it is any. I don't think it would be anymore.
Damn, true. Owned. It'll just be the
Shit.
Vice logo, right?
Yeah, right.
That seems likely.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, thank you for following us and listening to us as always. I hope everyone has a great week. And as you go into the... Sorry, I just got a text from my bank.
Why are they texting you?
I don't know.
They should not be talking to you like that.
It said, "Hi, Austin," which is scary.
That's really scary. It's all
Actually,
caps. Just
it's
so
all
you know.
caps.
That's what makes it the most scary.
This seems like a scam to me.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
put this down from not my bank.
No.
Hashtag not my bank, which is the hashtag that you should use when you tell the world, fuck capitalism. Goodbye. That's how it goes, right?
Goodbye.
I can't go home
Man,
because
you
I'm
see this
too
piece?
What? What's the piece?
The Intercept has a story about how Bernie Sanders back in 2000 passed a bill eliminating the rights of pharma companies to profiteer on like new drugs that are like urgently needed. And Biden worked with the GOP to kill it.
There it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
The head of the article is how the Senate paved the way for coronavirus profiteering.
Cool. There's that, and then there's that big quote about Warren that just came out from someone that knew her when she was a professor at Harvard.
I heard that
It's just-
piece there, that quote.
What was that?
Just like saying she was a hardcore Reaganite, and she said that national health care was one of the stupidest ideas ever. Like, I only know her as someone who is a craven person out for their own success, and I can't imagine her any other way. Essentially, it's like I'm
That
paraphrasing.
seems like bullshit.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, the problem is she has a record. She went through a transformation. Like,
I think
this campaign has
the only
dimmed
thing.
my-
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm just like, this campaign has dimmed my enthusiasm for Warren a great deal. But like the notion that she's like crypto Republican seems like complete fucking bullshit.
I think it's a bad front to fight on mostly, even if someone believes it, because part of the message is bringing people is the true belief that we can open the people's eyes, and I think that you end up ceding a lot of that possibility space when you go after someone for that reason, for that they learned and changed their minds. Whereas I can happily critique Warren on policy differences. I can happily critique Warren on the ways in which she's handled her understanding of race and has specifically kind of stepped all over what it means to be or stepped all over Native American communities by having a specific history of claiming to be a woman of color and of being of Native American descent.
I guess the only thing is like she can have had a change in her beliefs, but the methodologies between her campaign and how she's running it and how she's gaming the numbers reminds me too much of how the GOP thinks about electability in terms of how can we use math to get ourselves in more spaces and more and more Senate seats, more House of Representative seats. And that is deeply frustrating. Like, just the way that she is now clearly pivoting towards a broker convention where she wins despite not winning a single race.
Well, the thing that's so frustrating for me with her situation right now is if I were a Warren candidate or a Warren fan, a Warren voter, it would be because I believed that she would be the most likely candidate to get progressive policies passed, even if compromised, blah, blah, blah. When I talk to my friends who are still Warren voters, this is what they say to me. Hey, I agree with Bernie's platform. I just don't think he can get it through, which we can get into questions about likelihoods and blah, blah, blah. But
that's a disagreement I understand.
I can conceptualize the agreement or the argument even if I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
What falls apart for me is at this point, how do you believe that Warren comes out of that convention the winner? Like maybe a VP choice, maybe, but she's going to be minimized in a serious way, and her policies will not get passed if we go to a contested convention. She's not going to come out the other side of that wielding power. It's going to come if it goes down the terrible road that we can dream, the terrible worst version of this, where it goes to a contested convention where Bernie maybe has 45%, but Biden has 40% or something like that, and then Biden comes out the nominee. I don't think that we see any of the progressive agenda get passed outside of slight expansions to the ACA, and theoretically, some sort of immigration reform gets put on the docket again for the 30th time.
It's just no one can
What's
explain
up?
to me.
Why are you saying shit?
Klobuchar looks like she's going to be out.
Everyone who was a spoiler for Biden is dropping out. They all want everybody to vote for like Klobuchar. I have been seeing a lot.
Are we saying Klobuchar now? What is happening?
I don't know.
Two people just said Klobuchar.
It's because he said Klobuchar.
Okay. Am I wrong?
I have no.
No, it's
Klobuchar. I don't give,
Amy. I know, it's fine.
Our good friend Amy. Yeah, everyone who was a spoiler for Biden is dropping out now. Although I've been seeing a lot of Pete supporters online saying I've been convinced by the Bernie camp.
I've also seen that. Yes.
Yeah, which we might see a
Damn,
different
wait, she
spread.
dropped out. She's suspended. Wow.
Yeah, they all.
Holy shit.
This is about fucking Bernie. That's why Warren's not dropping out. This is all about fucking Bernie before Super Tuesday.
Love to fucking suffer.
But Bernie's gonna get California. He's gonna get Texas. He's gonna get all those. He's gonna get Massachusetts, which is gonna be very fucking embarrassing for Warren. And he's gonna get the vast majority of the Super Tuesday states. I have to feel hopeful, and I have to feel like today. Listen, I'm actually gonna go phone bake for Bernie after work today. Like, I feel like this is like, you gotta download the Burn app. You gotta get out there. Like, if you have time before your own primary, like, do it. Like, feet on the ground. You gotta go. You gotta talk to people one-on-one, person to person. Ask them what they really believe, what kind of America they actually believe in. Because if we're watching the DNC trying to fuck this, and I hate it.
We should wrap this up so that I can go stress.
And I gotta eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Is this post? Are we post?
This is post. We already did that once.
Yeah,
I'm going to say it again. Fuck capitalism. Go home. Fuck capitalism. Go vote for Bernie. Please. For real. Super Tuesday. This is it. And also download the Burn app. See where you can help out if you're part of this campaign like we are. I think, God, you know what? I'm gonna use this platform for two more things. Two more things before we wrap up. One is I do just want to voice this thing that I ended up writing over in the fucking Waypoint Discord, because this is now where I put all of my political long take thoughts, because I just need to think through the way well, this is stupid. I did a search for my own name in our Discord, thinking that I would find this thought I had that I wrote, and instead what I found was all of me asking people for help for Granblue Fantasy and trying to understand it, because that's what I actually use that server for.
Wow.
Here's the thing that I'm just going to read, and I'm reading it because it is. I hope that this turns some thoughts in our heads a little bit. A thing that I'm trying to work through right now is this contradiction, I guess. I wouldn't go so far as to say hypocrisy, but certainly a contradiction in how the current war and base is conceptualizing how change occurs. Right now, there's this big recurring line from her camp. She's electable if you fucking vote for her. In my gut, I actually like this line because partly because I recognize that frustration as the frustration a lot of us felt in 2016 with Sanders, that he's electable if you fucking vote for him. And therefore, I see a lot of those people as kindred spirits, just at a different point on the path that led us here. But I also like the kind of core of she's electable if you fucking vote for her, because it is at the heart of what a lot of our leftisms look like, which is there are no limits that we can on what we can achieve except for those placed on us through kind of social stratification, through the current situation of material relations. But like fundamentally, the impossible isn't. Like the impossible isn't impossible. Mm-hmm. We can take the reins and make real change. And if we just fucking do the thing, we can do the thing. At the same time, though, the heart of the appeal for Warren, for so many of her fans, is that she plays ball, that she compromises, that she understands what it means to be pragmatic. This is when they talk about general electability, but also about whether or not she can get her plans are more realistic. Right, the word you hear a lot is realistic. Yeah. They believe that in a democracy, you can't just offer up the right or most moral answer to a problem. That you actually have to have an answer that people you don't agree with will accept and support, which means delivering something less than perfect in the service of the good. And those two positions are so obviously at ends with each other. The like, she can win if she's electable if you fucking vote for her, versus, hey, compromise is necessary. Mm-hmm. First, because like the idea that pragmatism and coalition building should happen after a contested election in which everything is thrown out the window. Now is not the time for coalition building. Now is not the time for pragmatism. Now is the time for deeply impassioned vote for the candidate you believe in, not for the one who shares your priorities and it has a chance at winning. Vote your heart, not the one who maybe could actually win this thing. But second, and more importantly, like, Medicare for All in its most radical form on the table right now, not its most radical form in general, but the Bernie Sanders version of it is electable if we fucking vote for it, right? Yeah. Like the 100% college loan forgiveness is electable if we fucking vote for it. All of the things that are targeted as being unrealistic are electable if we put in the work. And I mean this in a much more abstract sense or a more metaphorical sense, right? Which is like, you could try to say that those things aren't realistic because it's impossible to pass them in Congress as Congress stands, because of the kind of proceduralism as it stands right now, because of the filibuster, because of But if you extend the if you fucking vote for it ethos to include, hey, if you fucking get involved at the local level, if you primary conservative Democrats who are in safe districts, if you support Democrats in purple districts and turn those, if you do the organization locally, and if you support, if you contribute to efforts in swing states, like, then we can do things that are so much beyond what we thought of as impossible 10 years ago, 20 years ago. There is at work something, and this is again the frustration I have with kind of the state of the Warren campaign right now, is that there is this divide between people, or this divide in ideology, where you believe in something, you believe in a progressive platform, and you believe that you should achieve that through compromise and coalition, and yet now is not the time for those things, because eventually, if that candidate wins, they won't know how to compromise or build coalitions. Yeah. It's like this really twisted, broken logic that is so frustrating to me, because I know these people. I'm friends with. I go to eat dinner with them sometimes. Like I play video games with them. Like, these are people who are close to me and who I know share a general vision for the future in this country. but who I guess my final thought here on all of this is just that like this is the moment. If you believe in your heart that you want to see the country pushed into a space where progressive agendas are being pursued and where the Democratic Party has to take seriously the progressive wing of that party, the left wing of that party, if you want to invest in the generational project that is reviving leftism in America, this is the moment to like make that happen and to get on board. I my hand is out to you. Like we talk shit when we talk shit. I'm critical of Warren for very specific reasons. Like I think that there is a lot of work to be done in terms of what happens next as more people fall into the Sanders camp who have different interests than the kind of core. And I think that's a difficult project, but it's a project we want to do. And so if you're out there right now and you're like, hey, it's just not realistic, but the alternative is that we get someone who is committed to the status quo in an unshakable and clear way, who has a voting history that proves it, who is not electable in the face of Trump, who does not have the groundswell of support. And here I'm talking about Biden. I'm not even going to talk about Bloomberg. And I think like this is it. So this is my appeal to Warren fans out there. Like it is what it is. That is what I'm going to leave on the table. And I hope as we go into Super Tuesday, you take that stuff in mind at least a little bit. And as you enter the ballot boxes, like, vote your heart, but I hope that you also vote. I hope that your heart guides you. Let your heart be your guiding key.
Guiding key.
Your guiding key. That's what
Right.
Sora would say.
Yes.
Sora supports Bernie Sanders.
All your favorite anime characters support Bernie Sanders.
Absolutely.
I've been on Twitter. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got. I had a second thing, but I forgot what it was, and that's probably better for us.
Yeah, we keep saying we're going to end. And
Fuck
we
capitalism.
Keep talking.
Go home.
I don't know where I'm
Goodbye.
going to cut this.
I don't know either. It's fine.
I think even Reinhardt would have supported Bernie Sanders. He would have been like, there is someone who understands there needs to be a fundamental transformation.
Yes, exactly.
The status quo is
status quo has
corrupt
to be
and has
burnt
lost
down.
legitimacy.
Yes.
I'm thinking about
exactly.
even the wildest JRPG villains.
100%.
The FF6 Kefka.
Kefka
Loves the chaos.
Loves the chaos.
Loves the chaos of watching the GNC
Totally. But
implode.
also Avalanche.
Kirscheiss would put it all on the line.
Kirchheis would be. This is what I'm saying is how do you make Jihaudun Kirchheis? This is not. That's the worst play that they. He's not pretty. He's pretty cool, but he ain't pretty. And those. Okay.
Okay, we gotta go.
We gotta go.
It's gonna be another 3 hours.
It's gonna be another 3 hours. Bye, Rob. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Bye,
Bye,
bye, bye. I love this.
What
Start
is
recording.
this?
Okay,
Yeah.
you are.
Hey, Rob. Hey.
I just want to say, I love it.
Hey, what's up?
You know what?
I need to take a screenshot.
I love this for you. Is this the monitor situation? He's nodding. Do you want to explain the monitor situation?
Yeah, hold on though. Discord. It says Discord doesn't get anything from me.
No.
Do you hear me?
We hear you. So Discord's getting something.
Is Audacity
Weird.
or whatever you're recording with?
Reaper.
Yeah, everything's getting. Yeah, it's just. I guess Discord. I didn't say anything for a minute, and Discord just panicked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're a little.
Yeah,
How's it look on your end as far as?
it looks quiet, but I
waveforms?
just heard myself. I sounded okay.
Yeah, can you just bring them up for us, maybe?
Yeah.
I can turn up the gain a little bit.
No, don't do that.
Yeah, you love it. You
No,
love
I
this
hate
game.
it.
Oh, let me just. Whoop. There we go.
Wait, is your fucking wait? Do you have a
Uh-huh.
a focus rate on your couch next to you?
Yes, I do. It's plugged into my
Yeah.
Corsair lapdog.
I don't like that.
Laptop?
What is this? What is Rob doing?
Yeah, hey Patrick.
What the fuck?
Welcome to this.
You just sipping
It's
a
like-
Guinness
it's like
on
a
your
Guinness.
couch? Is it Friday night?
Nah, dog, it is not even noon on Monday. I know Super Tuesday's tomorrow.
Yeah.
but
Rob's got the setup ready to watch.
Pre-gaming it.
Yeah.
uh-huh.
You install a new graphics card. Did you install the graphics card in you?
You know, in a way, it did kind of change my way of seeing things, and I decided to loosen things up today.
I'm gonna ask you one thing, Rob. Can you check your Discord output settings or input?
Oh yes,
settings?
I can.
Just make sure
I don't know. Can he put his drink down long enough to sort through the settings?
I don't know that he has a place to put it down. I don't know.
Where?
No, there's a table. Look at that. There's a table there. Wait. Oh,
No, that's the couch arm.
That's a.
That's the arm of the couch. I'm worried that Mike is going to fall over.
Wait, is that not
Oh,
a
it's
table?
fine. Don't even worry about it.
Fuck.
Okay, so yeah, what do you need? Like, because it's showing it bouncing up and down when I talk.
Yeah. So the one that says input, I think it says input. Is that one all the way up?
Yeah,
Okay, then you were fine.
Last time someone lounging on a couch like that said,
I
"What do
can
you
give
need?"
you more, Cado.
He was trying to sell me drugs. That's the joke. What? Anyway,
Oh yeah, hold on, Cado. In all this, it changed my microphone levels in Windows properties.
there you go. That's not good.
Here we go.
Hi.
Hi.
That sounds more normal.
There we go.
That does sound more normal.
Just make sure you're not peeking in Reaper.
Oh, I'm not. Don't even worry about it.
Can you bring Rob down
Great.
just a
Yes.
hair there on
Yeah,
our
yeah.
side? Thank you.
Just a touch.
Wait,
So
this
here's
is
the
how you're
deal.
talking into your mic now? Like 5 feet away from you?
Yeah,
That's how you
this is
set it up?
dangerous. I don't like this.
I don't love it on the arm.
I can get a little closer. Don't worry about it.
Okay, no, I know. You're pre-gaming. I get it.
Yeah. So here's the deal.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, turns out my monitor. Actually, it's not even that my monitor is that far out of date. It's just that I never bought a DisplayPort cable. I have
What?
every other kind of cable in the house. I do not have a DisplayPort cable. I have a DVI cable
Uh-huh.
that I've been using for my monitor for many years.
That's like
and I
a
was
multi-pin.
unaware that
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
that it was so out of date.
That's that if you're the age of 30 and up, that was the computers in your school were plugged in with those.
Uh-huh.
In your elementary school.
Damn, your elementary school had computers? Shit.
Yeah.
No,
That was
by
my
the time I was in junior high, we were good.
So the thing is, so the new video card doesn't have a DVI port. It has an adapter that it gives you, but the adapter was putting out in 1080,
Uh-huh.
and I had to force it to up-res to 1440 on my monitor, and it looked like shit. It was blurry, and I can't abide that. Was it legible? Yeah, perfectly usable. But that's not the life I live. I do native resolutions in this house.
In this house, we
so
respect
I decided just to
1440p.
I moved my flag to the couch, and I'm doing business on the TV.
You deploy to the couch now. You've taken the banner from your barracks and moved it right to the couch.
Precisely.
What? If only we could all be so luxurious in our casting.
Oh, not, is
Oh,
your
check this out.
keyboard just...
I got accent pillows.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. For your arm to rest on. What were you gonna say?
I expect that his feet are like in a pool of hot water too. And
No,
he's
but
just
they're on tiny ottoman. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It's nice. It's comfy.
A tiny.
How do I Patrick? I appreciate the concern.
yeah.
But everything
you know,
is squared away here.
that's good.
Is your keyboard just on your lap, or do you have something else going on there? Because that looks like...
No. There's a little thing called a lapdog.
You can't keep saying this. Do you mean a lap board?
It is a real product that serves a need. Look up lapdog Corsair.
Is that just a dog?
When I search for lapdog
Lapdog?
Corsair, in all caps, there's a Corsair page, and it says, "Meet lapdog. You'll want to sit down for this. Living room gaming. Living
Rob.
room gaming with zero
Here I am
compromise.
doing it.
Doing it.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I don't know why I slipped into Funkmaster Flex. Oh, because the word dog came up. That's why. The lap dog pit bull is in the building.
Oh my god.
All right, we should do a podcast. What are we doing? How are we cutting this up?
I don't know.
Let's figure this out right now, so that no one's in a conversation they don't want to be in. That's not like a judgmental or like a. But in terms of Patrick, you probably don't care about me talking about a mobile game I got into, or Rob talking about strategy games. Is my guess.
I mean, yeah, sure. I could bounce in the second half if you want to put that into the second.
I
half.
just don't know. I'm just trying to do the thing we said we were going to try to do, which was
Yeah, we can feel it out. I would say let's we'll hit a good stopping point and we'll see what's left.
Let's see where we're at when we're going to the break, and then we can see how far it's gone from there. That's fine.
Do we want to time ideas?
Yeah.
And also, do we want to do it 10 minutes?
Did Gita make a call about whether she was joining the show?
She's joining. She's just on the way and was like half an hour out. So
Okay.
it was
Well,
like,
So maybe
Gotcha.
she'll join in
Okay.
part 2.
yeah.
We'll tag. All right. Are we there? We ready? I'm asking. Are we? I'm going to say.
I mean,
yes.
do I not look
37.
ready?
37. All right.
Hi, Patrick. Bye, Patrick. Hi, Rob. Now you're so large.
And look at the situation
Am I
that
ever?
he is in right now.
You look so chilled out right now. You look like you're having the nicest time. This is
real
how I'm
good,
trying
Gita.
to be
I'm not
all
gonna
the
lie.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. Goals, honestly.
Sincerely. Why can't I always be like arresting like some kind of, wealthy baron on my arms out on a couch?
Is it just because of my rotund form that I look like an old-timey baron?
I think it's just how chill you can be.
No, I think it's the
Is there
general
something about me that
No,
says
Yeah.
that man needs a waistcoat and a pocket watch?
a little bit, yeah. A little bit. I think it's honestly the beard and the dimple. The combination of both. It definitely gives you a different vibe. Like, it's that, and also like I know you have the smartest dog in the world and you're incredibly intelligent yourself. So I'm ready for you to like take off
I mean,
your
nothing to
monocle
me,
and
but
polish
yes.
it while you're explaining something to me. So
I'm gonna bring pince nezes back.
oh my god. Those are so cool though. I don't know
They
how they
are,
work,
but also I would go through pince nezes at like an astonishing rate.
What are those?
Like, how do people not lose and destroy them? Like, look at what happens to sunglasses.
They're-
The pince nez was like sunglasses that you couldn't like wear.
yeah, no, it's like the AirPod of their time. Purely a marker of wealth, nothing else. Pince nezes are those ones that don't have ear loops. Yeah, they
Morpheus
just-
glasses.
Yeah. Morpheus glasses. Morpheus glasses.
I completely forgot that Morpheus wears a pince nez.
Yeah.
It's because Lawrence Fishburne
shit.
is that badass.
Yeah.
He's
he
that
pulls it
cool.
fucking off. He
Work
fucking
like
pulls it
I've
off.
never
Absolutely.
yeah.
I love him.
Whoever designed those glasses really deserves some credit then, because that's the coolest look for pince nez in history.
True. It's because they're slightly purple toned, and like his whole look is slightly purple toned. That it really just like really. The Matrix freaking rocks. I'm so
Yeah.
psyched for the Matrix 4. I don't even care
We
if
gotta
it's
rewatch
good or
those
not.
movies.
Yeah, I need to rewatch the
need
sequels
to-
and like pay attention this time.
I liked the third movie. I liked Matrix Revolutions.
That's
I
what
really
I hear.
just did not like Reloaded. I just could not.
Yeah,
out with
Reloaded. So here's a funny Matrix Reloaded related joke that my boyfriend keeps making, which is that he wants to go like to be like the twins for Halloween, but get a group of like 12 people to all dress like that.
Great.
And all roll up to a party with the white dreads. Wow. Like the whole white leather outfit. I really want that to happen for him. Also, yeah, I keep hearing that Revolutions is all right, but Reloaded is just like, I've tried multiple times to watch that movie. It is a slog, and it is boring, and it's asked me to care about a lot of things I don't care about at all.
It feels so much like Matrix, self-contained story.
Yeah.
Matrix Reloaded is like, oh shit, franchise? But here's why the story is not over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't really have much beyond that, right? They're like, Agent Smith, he's gone real bad. Worse than you remember. And then Revolution seems like an actual destination that they found by that point.
Well, wasn't the whole thing with Reloaded that they expected you to engage with all of its cross-media
Yes.
things, right?
Yeah, they're like a large portion
Is that
of the
when they
plot.
rolled out the Animatrix?
Yes.
They had the Animatrix right before Reloaded, and then they also had that game that would explain what happened to Jada Pinkett Smith and her crew, right?
No.
What was that, Cado? Nairobi? Is that what?
Niobe. No, I was right. Niobe.
Nairobi. Okay,
That's funny. That's a
yeah. There was a video game where they expected you to learn about, or was that the massively multiplayer?
Is that the one
online
where the
game?
Wachowskis show up and say that the ending is bullshit? Is that the one where they sort of break the fourth wall at the end of the game, or is that a different game?
Well,
I think that one
might-
came out after all three were done.
What was that one? What was that? Was that Into the Matrix? Enter the Matrix?
They were really bad at naming these games.
Enter the Matrix. Was Enter
Might
the
be
Matrix?
End of the Matrix.
There was an MMO
Enter the Matrix.
for sure.
Because
was the
Matrix
one.
Online was yeah.
And then there was Path of Neo, which was a different thing.
And
Wait, that
the
might
Path of
be the
Neo was the
one.
one. Yeah, that was the one where the Wachowskis showed up and they were like, okay, so we couldn't translate the philosophical conversation we were having in this movie to video games. So just
Video
fight a
games
big
need boss
Smith.
fights. Here you go.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is wild to watch that sequence
ma-
now when, knowing that at the time they both identified as male and are presenting as male, but they choose avatars that are almost completely genderless to represent themselves. Just super interesting. Looking back on their first film that they did together also, you can see just hardcore egg mode. Basically, the first movie they did is a crime drama about two lesbians. And guess what? They're two lesbians. You know?
There you go. Yeah, sorry. Apparently, the Enter the Matrix was designed, like the Animatrix, to be an integral part of the Matrix milieu, which is, I think, what they called this section of the Matrix, the second movie, the games. It had over an hour of filmed footage in it
God
that
damn.
took place during the time frame of the Matrix
I
Reloaded.
remember hearing about this and just thinking, Ravi, my brother's not going to let me borrow his PS2 to understand what happens in the Matrix Reloaded. That's just not going to happen for me. So I guess I'll never know.
Directed by the Wachowskis and starring a cast of the film's trilogy, produced for the game. It was not critically well received.
I think that's how they got Jada Pinkett also, because she barely appears in Reloaded.
Yeah,
But they were like, okay, but your character plays a huge role in this, cross media stuff.
Yeah.
But people were really just about the movies. I think
Absolutely.
it's just what turned up. We're talking about the Matrix.
Matrix is great.
True.
Don't fucking sleep on it.
I gotta rewatch
They're
it.
shooting the new one. I saw some footage, or not footage, but
yeah.
I saw.
A
Yeah,
picture-
there's
footage,
somebody jumping,
but,
right?
No, somebody people on a
On a roof?
No, people on a contraption that drove down the street while people were on it,
There's
fighting.
a
Oh,
deep
I s-
healing energy of that picture of Carrie Ann Moss and Keanu Reeves in the
Yes.
motorcycle.
Yes.
Where it's just like,
Mom and Dad.
time to
together
pander
again.
to me.
Yes. That's them. That's my cinematic parents.
I'm boomer now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that is the vibe for the past. All of the seeing
Well,
Public
the
Enemy,
Strokes are the Beatles
seeing
now.
the Strokes.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Bernie Sanders saying "Soccer Mommy," not that "Soccer Mommy" is a boomer band,
But
but just that energy.
that energy, understanding that the Strokes are the Beatles now is really just I understand my place in the
I do
universe
too.
more
Yeah.
strongly
I
now.
accept it though.
Yeah.
I lean into it.
I knew this was going to happen to me. Wasn't expecting the Strokes to be our generation's Beatles, but when
Who did you think
more
it was
I
going
think
to
about
be?
it,
Who you?
I thought it'd
Also,
be
are we
something much dumber that I liked a lot less.
Well, who else could it be though?
I mean, there's
feel
also
like
Kanye's
Green
also the
Day.
Beatles.
Right. Yeah.
Kanye is also the Beatles.
Green Day, like you said.
Yeah.
But Green Day is just at the edge of our generation, right?
He's probably my older brother.
Right,
Closer to the Beatles for him.
right.
Yeah.
Sure.
But for us, when I think about how much I can tell about a person based on when they think the Strokes started getting bad or what their favorite Strokes album is,
Yeah.
I feel like,
Wait, what do you think? What is your favorite Strokes album?
right now I think it's Room on Fire.
Room on Fire is very good.
Yeah, I used to be Is This It for the longest time.
Yeah, I was also Is This It forever, ever.
But I listened to Room on Fire, and I was like, I
should
didn't
go
give this
back.
album
I
a
should
chance
revisit.
when I first listened to it.
Yeah, sure.
And now I listen to it again, and it's got some truly, truly amazing songs.
Well,
on
and then
there.
I just like honestly fell off after Room on Fire. I liked Room on Fire, but then I was like, I'm done because I'm busy doing other shit.
Yeah, and they made 2 albums that sounded fundamentally the same, and you're like, how many more of these
How many
can
more?
listen to this?
Yeah, totally. Which is unfair, maybe.
They got better. They
Okay.
started experimenting more with the guitar riffs and stuff in a really technical, interesting way. And then Julian Casablancas got really into keyboards.
Shout outs to that guy.
Yo,
Nice
shout
work.
outs to Julian Casablancas. Could have just been a guy who slept with all of the models from his dad's modeling agency. Decided to start a band instead. So he had a different way to fuck models.
Good. Wow. Yeah. You know what? Congrats to that man again. Fuck. Can we come back in? Are we ready to do a podcast?
Yeah.